Oh, is it showtime? Hey, everybody. Welcome to Fat Man Beyond. I'm Kevin Smith.
I'm Marc Bernardin.
Hey!
Oh!
We have so much to talk about, not the least of which is WandaVision. But as you caught me reading the Manscaped Daily News, Mark, do you have a subscription to the Manscaped Daily News?
I'm a charter subscriber to the Manscaped Daily News.
They still got a comic book section. They still got want ads and stuff. It's the only paper that I still read. They got obituaries, my favorite part, the newspaper. Like my father used to go looking to see who died and shit. But the headline, as you can tell in the Manscaped News, is "We Save Balls." Doesn't this feel like, that in the picture of like Huey beats fucking whatever.
Dewey beats Truman.
That's it. Dewey beats Truman. This is my Dewey beats Truman moment right here.
Yeah. See, I thought this was your J. Jonah Jameson moment where you're like reading the paper and then somebody, Parker!
Parker! And Parker, and I'm like angry because he caught me reading about balls.
If we had good pictures of Doc Ock, we wouldn't need to put balls in the headline.
Let me tell you something. If I'm that guy, I fucking love Spider-Man because it's like once you get Spider-Man, you get a Doc Ock, you get a Green Goblin, you're selling newspapers. Why he's making hay off this fucking Spider-Man instead of like cutting him a check is beyond me. But you know what? That's a story for another time. I don't want to get on J. Jonah Jameson's dick because I don't want to wind up on the fucking Daily Bugle website. Have you seen that Daily Bugle thing they're doing for Spider-Man 3?
I have not. No. Tell me about it.
You can go to it. Flash Thompson's Instagram, he had a copy of the web page, and it kind of they're building their world before we get a chance to see it. And so the dailybugle.net is a website, and you can see the page on Flash Thompson's page, Instagram page, story, I think it was. But wait, before we jump into all that good stuff, as you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, we have the proud sponsor with us tonight, the good folks who tell you your balls will thank you, the good folks at Manscaped, ladies and gentlemen. Manscaped. Right here, this Manscaped kit came with, what we got here? While I'm digging this shit out, tell them where to go for Manscaped.
If you want to get in on some of this sweet, sweet Manscaped action, go to manscaped.com. Use the code FATMAN20 and you'll get 20% off with free shipping. So go there. Your balls will thank you.
You got one of these?
Oh, I do have one of those. Hold on. Let me crack it out of my box here. The lawnmower.
Too, man.
Yeah.
This little set came with one of these, and out the box, Mark, it's ready to go.
Hell yeah.
I didn't have to, hear that? That's the sound of pleasure. The pleasure of shaving, the pleasure of holding it against something that comes. But it's ready to go and shit, this shaver. And then it's got this little bag with accoutrements in it. And what do you got? Let me see yours.
I got the look into the light. Forget about all of your hair care worries.
You're right. I got the light too. Oh my God, we can have a lightsaber fight. This feels more like the flashy thing from Men in Black.
The Neuralizer.
Yes. Here's a little charging cord. Here's a little, in case you're real fucking thick, you haven't touched them in years and you got just a thicket to get through down here. Well, what's in this? This is a souvenir mug of some sort? What's going on?
The tiniest mug.
It's a fucking handy dandy holder. That's where it goes into and shit like that.
Yep.
You plug it in, you get ready to shave your damn balls as needed. Right here, we got some ball toner, ladies and gentlemen. So you've uncapped that shit. You're like, and you just spray it on, you fucking go. And what happens is when somebody gets into your balls, they're like, this shit's tone. And you're like, that's right. Manscaped tone.
Yes, it is. It's like putting a star wipe in their crotch.
Yes, and star wipe. I know. This is called the Manscaped Crop Preserver. It is ball deodorant. Can you believe we've lived long enough where they can write the words ball deodorant on a product and they wouldn't be run out of the fucking state or something like that?
Nobody wants sweaty balls.
Truth in advertising. Tell them what it is. It's goddamn ball deodorant. What?
We hear you.
Here, I'll try to pull up. I'll see if we're still on.
I'm not sure. I've got buffering all over my internet. Although I have you guys on Zoom.
No, we're still up.
I wonder if Restream. Are you guys seeing it?
I see it on my house.
Oh, okay, we're good. We're back. Sorry, the chat was blowing up, and then
That just gave SIAVM in chat the ability to say that California internet sucks. I just want to point out for the record, kids, that you won't see me falling offline this week or ever again, because you know what I did? I plugged into the internet. No more fucking Wi-Fi. After nearly the entire quarantine, I finally figured out, well, what if I just plugged into the wall? And Josh Roush was like, that'd work much better. So I won't be none of those frustration moments where I'm like, and then what I think about Wanda is, fucking, I'm got good internet. Are you hardwired in, Mark? Or are you?
No, I'm on Wi-Fi, but I'm also on like WeWork's highfalutin, industrial strength Wi-Fi.
True. And JC, are you Wi-Fi'd out or are you hardwired?
I am hardwired. I'm hardwired in.
Why did you think we went off the internet? JC thought we went off YouTube, so we were all looking.
Both the Twitch and the YouTube started buffering on my end, and then everybody in the chat was like, it's buffering, we don't see anything. So
everybody in chat now is like, it's great, we're here, shut up, move on.
Keep showing your dumb head.
Look at all these fine fucking products. The modern man is a man who takes care of himself. Manscaped isn't just for life's special occasions, it's a requirement for optimal health, superior hygiene, and healthy self-esteem. How awesome is that, man? Where do we send these cats to buy this stuff?
They go to manscaped.com, use the code FATMAN20, save 20% off. And one of these things that I really appreciate is I have in the past, given the kind of hair that I have, gone to like a barber and had the clippers go, and you get these snags in your head and they would fucking hurt. These bastards, the Lawnmower 3.0 has a ceramic blade and advanced skin-safe technology, so no snags on your snowballs at all. And the trimmer's waterproof. So fucking take it in the shower with a jacuzzi if you're a savage.
Take it. Just like Mark said, you take it.
Take it.
Take it and you take it good. If you're willing to use it on your scalp, if it's good enough for your scalp, it's good enough for your balls, kids. And Mark is the first one to testify. He's told you many times that he uses his ball shaver, man. And Absolutely. He stands by that. He hasn't changed his story in all this time.
Not at all. Your head is the balls of the top of your body, so shave them clean.
In this kit, it came with a pair of performance boxer briefs, but this is for a large man, so I don't know who the fuck they think is going to wear it in this house. I large, not for quite some time. It's been a minute since I fit in a large. So somebody, if we were live at the bar and doing shows, somebody was going to walk out with my panties tonight.
Oh, hell yeah.
And then there's a t-shirt, Manscaped, your balls will thank you. Look at this fucking carrying kit.
Yeah, if you get the performance package, it comes with the Lawnmower 3.0, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, and the briefs, and a travel bag.
And you put it all in this sweet bag.
Hell yeah.
Look at this shit. Everyone's like, we know how a bag works, asshole. That's kind of dope. It's a really nice bag. I like these Manscaped people, not the least of which because they fucking sponsor Fat Man Beyond. But God damn it, they're going where no one's gone before, man. They're just like putting balls on Front Street. And let me tell you, nobody likes fucking balls. Guys don't like balls. Girls don't like balls, but they're there. They're an essential part of life. You got to get past them to get to the good stuff and whatnot. Why not keep them looking their best? Why not have your balls be their shiniest, man, and tonest? That's what you get with the good folks at Manscaped, ladies and gentlemen. Look at all these fine fucking products. Take care of your goddamn balls. Go to manscaped.com/ what, Fatman2020?
Fatman20.
Fatman20. Look at me. Make it more difficult. Manscaped so fucking good, they've left off the second 20. Go to not fatman.com. Go to manscaped.com/fatman20. And what do they get for that? Like
20% off with free shipping.
20% off of free fucking shipping.
Yeah. So go to that website or go to manscaped.com and put in the code at checkout, fatman20.
It also comes with a copy of the fucking Manscaped Daily News.
The Ball Review.
Yeah, I have not. Honestly, it's been so long since I saw a newspaper that I was so delighted by this. I was like, I felt like I was in Europe with fish and chips. I was like, this is positively continental. It's been a long time since I've seen a newspaper.
I remember being a young man moving out of my house for the first time. I always thought that the height of being an adult was getting the Sunday New York Times. And then like knowing how to fold it and read it so that you got, all right, this is A1 about the fold. This is the next story. It was a fucking like origami transformer of information. And so that brought back some good memories. You wrestling with a newspaper.
As a kid who worked retail, Mark, I don't know if you know this, but I used to work in this little convenience store in New Jersey. I don't really talk about it. Nobody knows this part of my life, but I was involved in retail at one point. And in retail on Sunday mornings, when the New York Times used to come, and before there was an internet, and the only place we got our news was either from TV or from reading a newspaper, the New York Times, we would let's say Quick Stop got 100 copies of the New York Times. You had to put them together, and they were built of separate sections that all came throughout the week. Some shit that was not going to change, like the arts and leisure section, that came on Wednesday with a bunch of other sections that were immutable. Then the last thing that came was on Sunday morning, which would be the front page and the sports and anything that just happened recently. And so your job was to fucking put the papers together, man, because they were honestly in 4 different piles. And they turned into, as you're well aware, like thick as a dick, man, just fucking luscious. Like the New York Times, you could kill a motherfucker with the old New York Times. I don't know what the Sunday New York Times is like anymore. But back in the day, it was the bane of my existence putting together that fucking newspaper every week. So much so that I begged my friends come down and help me. I begged Walter Flanagan and Brian Johnson. I said, can you wake up at 6 a.m? Well, really 5:30 and come to Quick Stop with me and make the papers? And they'd be like, you're out of your fucking mind. The only one who ever said yes was Jason Mewes.
Aww.
And Jason, that was how we built our friendship. That's how we started watching Degrassi together. That's how we literally became Jay and Silent Bob, sitting there watching TV and making the newspapers on Sunday morning. But I remember I offered him like money. I was like, oh, if you come down and make the papers with me on Sunday morning, I'll give you $2. He was like, all right, $2, bro. We're talking 80s money. Like this ain't like a story about the fucking 40s and shit like that. In 1989, I was like, if you wake up at 6 a.m. and stay with me at Quick Stop until noon, I'll give you $2.
And it's almost like, dude, don't even offer me money if you're going to offer me $2.
Well, honestly, he was doing it clearly not for the money and shit. I mean, if anything, maybe he was like, look, I go there, I eat some free food, it works out. But he clearly did it for the camaraderie. And here we are years later, we have a business together. So the point of that story, kids, is
is that somewhere in Jay's house there is an old coffee can filled with the $2 that you gave him every Sunday.
Oh my God, that's the beautiful ending to our life story movie, is that like I've lost everything and he gives me a coffee can, and inside it's got cash, and I'm like, what is this? What is this? And he's like, that's all the money you ever gave me to come help you make the papers. And it's like $28. And I'm like, this ain't gonna fucking help. Credits.
It's like, what's the interest on $28 over 35 years? Like, well, like
I'm like, $28? He's like, you only did it 14 times.
I saved it just in case.
Yeah, that's all of it. Yeah, if you had been more generous in your youth, you would have more money now. So the lesson here is fucking $2. I've been waiting 40 years to teach you this lesson. Fucking $2, you piece of shit.
Credits.
Yeah, credits. People are like, boy, I thought I knew their story, but I guess they were kind of shitty with each other at the end over math. I don't know. It's like the Bud Abbott, Lou Costello fucking story. Did you ever see? I remember this movie still fucking haunts me. They made a TV movie of the Abbott and Costello like story and shit, and not the good parts, right? Like it's not like they were fun and happy and had good times. It was about like how they fought and fucking like and shit, bad, sad things that happened. I'll never forget this. I think it was which one? Hey, I bet. So Lou Costello, the short, the stockier one. I think if I remember that movie correctly, he had a kid that like fell into the pool and drowned, and that's why they started putting fences around pools. But like I remember I watched, it was a TV movie on like CBS or NBC in like the late 70s, early 80s. But it was one of the most terrifying things I'd ever seen on TV. That moment, because that was not part of our world. We didn't have in-ground pools where I came from, so you couldn't fall into an in-ground pool.
Yeah, you had to want to be in there.
Yes, unless you stumbled onto some millionaire's fucking estate. Nobody was falling into an above-ground pool. You just bump into the wall a lot. So this kid this was an in-ground pool, and it was so sad, but also so terrifying because I was not that young as when the kid fell in the pool, but young enough to be like, that's a thing to worry about now. So there were two things like that I got from watching TV movies that terrified. Well, three. One was the falling in a pool like Lou Costello's kid. The other was the day after. Remember that fucking thing?
I do, yeah.
Oh my God. When they were like, is there anybody out there? Anybody at all? And everybody was fucking dead and shit. But there was no like Mad Max or dinosaurs. It was just sad. And then the third one is it Don't Be Afraid of the Dark? The one with the whispering little fuckers that live under the radiator and shit?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Guillermo del Toro was involved in a remake and it was okay, but the original is so fucking 70s scary. And you know what? There's a fourth. It's not a TV movie, but a 70s movie. Race with the Devil. Terrifying fucking movie. If you're a Catholic kid, that's got Peter Fonda and Warren Oates and Loretta Swit. I forget who the other lady is. And it's these two couples that go motorbiking like in the desert or fucking out in somewhere in Baja, California or whatever the fuck. And they got a Winnebago. And so they're camping, they're going, basically it was just Warren Oates and Peter Fonda like got paid. And it says it if you read the history of the movie. They just got paid because they wanted to go ride motorbikes in Baja. So like, we'll do this fucking movie, sure. So in the Winnebago, these cats, they go driving around during the day on their bikes, and then they're having like a campfire and shit. And they're in the middle of nowhere. And then they hear something in the distance and they go through the fucking brush and they find like a satanic ritual in progress. So there's like all these Satanists in robes and shit. And then they bring out like a girl and they take her clothes off. Like when I say girl, I mean like in her 20s or whatever. And so, at first they're like, oh, look at this. It's an orgy. And then motherfucker's just like, and kills the girl. And like Loretta Swit or the other woman in the couple is like, ah, and screams. And all the Satanists fucking turn and they're like, and then they spend the rest of the movie chasing that fucking Winnebago down. But it's terrifying. Especially if you're a fucking Catholic. When I was a Catholic kid, like Satanists were like, that's as bad as it fucking got, right? Like on earth, you couldn't be worse than a Satanist. So it is terrifying. But there's a scene in the movie where they don't know what a Satanist is. They got to do this for the rest of the audience that don't fucking know and shit. So get this. They go to a library while they're on the run from the Satanists. They stop their Winnebago and library and they're looking up facts about Satanism and shit like that. But it's got
get like 10% of the budget from like the American Library Association. So it's like, listen, we'll give you money for this, but you got to have a scene in a library.
I'm sure the Library Association was like, finally, yes. Like we do play a part. Thank you very much. And it has a terrifying ending where they get away. Spoilers, fucking good luck finding this movie, but spoilers if you're going to watch it. They get away from the Satanists and shit who are chasing them the whole movie, kill their dog and shit. They're just trying to get to them. And finally they get to a place where you're like, oh, we made it. And they're all relieved and they come to a halt and shit and stop the Winnebago. And they're doing the, back slapping, whoo, we lived and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden a fucking ring of fire lights up around the Winnebago. and they're like, no, and you pull up and you see like the Satanists have surrounded them with fucking flames. It's fucking intense. It's a movie you could literally remake today and would still fucking work.
I thought you were going to say, and then the Satanists go to the library and get a phone book and discover their addresses.
They're like, they don't know enough about us. We really don't know enough about motorbikers who go to Baja. So
We don't.
to find out more, let's go to the library. And there's a whole
The sword of knowledge cuts both ways.
Yes. That movie falls apart with the advent of the internet, right? Like, you know, in the first, and the cell phone, like in the first 10 minutes, you see a sacrifice, and maybe you're, you know, somewhere where your signal's not up, but sooner or later, you're going to be within signal distance. You call a cop, you can literally take fucking pictures, video. So like, yeah, that movie I don't know if that movie works quite the same way it does nowadays, or as it did back then. It's a bummer. Anyway,
you just have to be, you know, like Joshua Tree or something, where there is no internet and there's never going to be an internet. And it's like, oh shit, we can't call anybody. It seems like we're back in 1973.
You've just described a much better horror story right there with your log line of there is no internet. There's never going to be an internet. Like, no!
You move to the Hollywood Hills. There is no internet.
Yeah. Trust me, if you want to fall into that dead zone, be up here. But not anymore, motherfuckers, because I am cabled in. I'm plugged right the fuck into the wall, man. So as I say it, it's not being traveled through no Ys and Phis. It goes through a goddamn wire, the way fucking power should.
It was good enough for old dad. It's good enough for me.
We've probably been talking about, in chat, somebody said, lumpyhippohoodies.com says, back when the Dewey Decimal System could save you from Satan.
It's just the 800s. No, Satan is in the 300s in religion.
That's them picking through cards. Satin? No, Satan with an A, not an I. Ooh. All right, let's get to what we're here to talk about.
Yes, sir.
And that is, of course, last night or yesterday, Friday at 12 a.m., WandaVision happened again for episode 6. I've just done a fuck ton of talking about Race with the Devil, a subject nobody came here to hear about. So, except, you know, there's maybe 2 people in the audience who are like, I think I remember that movie, but can we talk about WandaVision? Let's start with you and your take on it, because I just freshly watched it right before this show, so I got all sorts of thoughts. I mean, I'd seen it last night, but I also just rewatched it. What'd you think of this week's WandaVision?
I am now going to be steadfast. The show is fine.
But are you being that way because you feel that way, or you just don't want to catch shit?
You know, a little bit of both. You know, there are times when I don't need this in my life. This level of antagonism is pointless. But I do think, you know, and I said it last week, I said it the week before, the more context we get about what's happening in the show, the more I'm interested in the show. I was less on board when it was just a kind of meta exercise in sitcom recreation, and more interested in it once it becomes what it seems like it's going to be, which is, you know, Wanda is in some fashion or another trapped in this place, whether or not she has control over it or not. And episode 6 shows that she has lots of control over it when she expands the borders of Westview. You know, but also not enough control over the people within it. And the most harrowing scene I've seen in a while in one of these in a show like this is just that woman who's like almost putting up her Halloween decorations, but stays in this crazy loop where she can't actually put it up, and then you like push it a little bit, you see the tear streaming down her eyes, and that idea that again everybody's a prisoner, and Wanda has but so much bandwidth to deal with all of them. So when the focus of the show is on her and her immediate surroundings, it's full of life and joy, and everybody's kind of animated. But for the parts of the valley that the sun doesn't shine, it is just like zombie land of people kind of trying to break through the shell of what their former lives used to be. And I am now more invested in the Vision story than I am in the Wanda story, because the Vision story is tragic to me. The Vision story is, here's a guy who thinks he knows exactly what he is, and who he is and what his history is. And the longer we're with him, the more he realizes that he is not what he thought he was. You know, when he runs into Agnes at the end of town at Ellis Street, which I also found kind of nice because Warren Ellis wrote a book called Next Wave, which featured Monica Rambeau as the star.
Ah, that was the connection. When I heard them when they say Ellis, I was like, I wonder if they mean Warren Ellis. I didn't know he worked with the character before.
Yeah, and it's a really fun book. It's worth picking up. But you know, running into Agnes, who's like literally just at a traffic light trying to find the town square, and it's like, you've lived here your entire life. How do you not know where this is? And then he breaks her free of it, and she's like, "Oh, your Vision, are the Avengers here?" And he's like, "What's an Avenger?" You know, and that sense that he's beginning to realize that his life is not what he thought it was, that he knows there are blank holes in his memory.
Like in the last episode, episode 5, when he started freaking out and he's like, I don't know, you know, my life before Westview and I'm scared. Like the idea of like, nothing you realize, like, so you're coming to, he's like the character in the classic sci-fi that is becoming aware. He's Neo, man. He's realizing that he's in a fucking matrix and like, you know, he's got to take a pill and get out to some degree.
Yeah. And so his sort of, go ahead.
The commercial, which was the first time we didn't see the actor and the actress who have been in every other commercial spot. Mm-hmm. As we talked about last week, the commercial seemed to correspond to the Infinity Stones. That would mean episode 6, the Yo Magic, was probably the Soul Stone. What did you take from it? My take from it was, here's a little kid who's starving and I'll eat anything, he says, or whatever. And the shark gives him this thing that he can't then open, and then he fucking turns skeletal and fucking dies. I mean, it was like, you know, all the other ones worked as commercials. Like we could actually see them selling a product. This one, it's just like, who would want to eat this shit? Like, especially when the commercial is, you can't fucking open it to the point of death. But what I took out of it was the little kid is her. Like she's starving, like, you know, for whatever, the companionship, fucking, you know, people not to die in her fucking life. And the shark could represent somebody who offered her a seemingly good thing, which we now see isn't very nourishing at all. And so last week or the week before, I was just like, there's no way it could be Mephisto. Why would they just suddenly Mephisto us? People don't know about Mephisto. That commercial, and then also the conversation that she had with Pietro, where Pietro essentially, not even tacitly, but gave full-throated support for what she's doing, knew exactly what she was doing in controlling the town and shit, and gave support to the point where she's like, you don't think this is bad? And he's like, no, I think it's amazing and stuff. But the way he was talking to her, I'm not going to say, like, it didn't sound like Pietro, but it sounded like the devil. So I'm gonna amend my, I don't think it's Mephisto, and be like, maybe it is Mephisto. I just find that incredible. We got 3 episodes left, right?
Yeah. And apparently each of those 3 episodes, according to Kevin Feige, is going to be an hour long.
Are you shitting me? So next week's episode's an hour?
Yes. Each of the last 3 is going to be an hour long.
Let us all pray to the great God Feige, who not only given us like 6 episodes of a wonderful show, but then has given us 3 hour-longs of that show. What do we do to deserve this guy? Fuck, he's the goods. In any event, I feel like it could be Mephisto, but don't you find that odd that they would just, like, think about how long they built up to Thanos. But then again, in a movie, you only have 2 hours, and they're like, here's Dormammu. And, right, you know, we got the concept within 2 hours and bang. So I guess it wouldn't be like out of the ordinary, unheard of. If WandaVision was indeed a 2-hour movie and they introduced Mephisto, I wouldn't think twice. I'd be like, well, that's what they do. But it just felt like this was so protracted. And also, like, the character, at first I was like, well, Mephisto needs a lot of fucking, like, you know, laying to the seats. And then you're like, not at all. He's the devil. He's literally one of the oldest figures in any storytelling medium or mode there is. This one just has a different fucking name, which is actually short for Mephistopheles. So that name's been around forever. So it could very well be Mephisto, which, like, hats off. As a guy who wrote Mephisto for Daredevil, like, I never thought we'd see fucking Mephisto in something. So if it is, I think that's fucking awesome. And for the first time, I'm starting to understand that, like, I guess it could be. I definitely think that ain't Pietro, for damn, Skippy. Now, somebody said online that there's, like, it can't be Mephisto because they got to sell this show in China, and China don't like the devil or something like that. This is the first I heard of this shit. I don't know. So that means he could be, you know, take it down a notch, and you could make him Nightmare instead of Mephisto. And maybe they're holding Mephisto for something bigger or whatever the fuck. But either way, clearly she has been, based on that Yo Magic commercial, if we're to infer from those commercials, hints and clues, and I think that's the point, I think she entered a deal with the devil. I think somebody offered her something that seemed like it could nourish her soul and clearly isn't nourishing at all.
I mean, I think there's also the chance. I mean, I don't quite buy the Chinese argument for why this couldn't be Mephisto in the show, because they don't have to sell tickets for it, you know, like, and I don't know how deep Disney Plus is into China. I don't assume that it's much,
especially with Disney Plus. I mean, I can't imagine,
and if it's going to be, you know, the big bad for phase 4, or whatever phase is the next phase, I can't remember where we are at this point. It's possible to shade Mephisto so that he's not actually the devil, but he is something else. Maybe he's cosmic, maybe it's whatever, maybe, you know, in the same way that Thor recast the gods of the Norse mythology as just, we're aliens. You know, you might think we're gods, but we're actually just from another planet. That maybe Mephisto has been interpreted to be the devil by some terrestrial religions, but he's actually something older and deeper and weirder. Because if they're planning the big bad for this next phase, yes, those will have to eventually play into China, and risk, you know, leaving all that money on the table is not a thing that I think they want to do.
Did you hear Pietro at one point, like when he was with the kids and Wanda, he said, go on, you little hellspawn.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, now you could just say, oh, that's somebody, you know, the uncle being sarcastic, but like that seemed like a very pointed, chosen term.
Yeah.
Because which made me think, as I was watching it, like she, like, you know, I mean, I know it's all in a fucking bubble that she's creating, but like, even in the real world, she probably would not have been able to make a child with fucking vision. He's a synthezoid, correct?
It's made of vibranium. So I don't know if vibranium.
So at the end of the day, if she does, if those kids, what is it, Wiccan and
Speed,
if they are indeed her kids, if they allow those kids to keep living, if they're not just part of, but, you know, we heard in earlier shows, like, no, those kids are real and blah, blah, blah. When and she's in some sort of deal with the devil, then hellspawn, meaning like they were the children of the devil, would be very on point and appropriate.
You know, and the other thing is, like, yes, we could be introducing Mephisto, which, you know, would be cool. But there's also somebody had popped a panel into some Twitter chain who was like, I can't wait for this moment. And it's Magneto, you know, kind of hovering over what would have to be the Avengers, at least in the comics, demanding that he has his daughter back.
Right.
You know, and so if all of this is going to be a way to introduce Magneto, and if that is the Luke Skywalker level cameo that they're referring to by the end of this show, is Fassbender here demanding his daughter back, that's kind of cool.
I would take that 1,000 times over. I don't know if they're setting us up for that, though. Uduko Vitaman in the chat said, Pietro also said the town was, quote, charming as hell. And once again, like hell. Maurice Suggs in the chat said, I think the kid not being able to open the O Magic is the twins not being able to unlock their X gene powers without the Shark, Hydra, and Nightmare, like Ajax unlocked Deadpool's powers. I think that's a stretch. Like, God bless, but I think my interpretation is more on point. I think it was odd that it was a boy character, though, if it was meant to be Wanda or whatever. But man, that's like a deep cuts read. Well done, Maurice. Let me. What the what? I thought this was WandaVision because I was like, what the fuck? JC just deleted. I went to read a fucking comment and it literally disappeared in front of my eyes. It was somebody denying COVID, but I thought it had to do with WandaVision. So I was like, wait, I don't remember that part at all. Let's talk about another aspect of the show. Not so much this episode, but definitely last episode. When first she said, like, I know an engineer, Monica Rambeau said, I know an engineer would like to take a run at that. Then she talked about building a special box to get inside, and do you think she's referring to, some people are saying Hank McCoy, which I guess is possible, but it feels like it's Reed Richards, Sue Richards, or Victor Von Doom, which if they're starting Fantastic Four, they could start with. And every week as I look at these sword costumes, all I see are the Fantastic Four outfits. Like, feels like you're setting the table right in front of us, no?
I mean, they could be. I feel like that is a massive leap for them to take. To use this to launch the Fantastic Four. You could totally, but it feels like a really weird place to do that. With no context for the Fantastic Four within the universe yet. Like there's a world where it's Hank Pym. Like I need an engineer who's really good at this shit. Like I found that guy. There's a world in which it's Bruce Banner.
But she said it's her. Like she knew somebody. Like somebody in the chat just said, online they're theorizing that it could be Rocket. Would she know Rocket from being a member of SWORD? Like prior to what's going on in the events of WandaVision, they implicated that she has been to space. Right. Like, there was like the idea of all missions are grounded and stuff. So I guess that's possible. Somebody's saying Shuri could be the engineer, but like, how would Monica Rambeau know Shuri?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a lot we don't know about Monica's history. She literally went from being, a 6-year-old moppet to like a grown-ass woman who clearly had some professional escapades with SWORD. So, and had been to space. So like anything is on the table, I suppose. But my gut tells me it's going to be a person we've seen before and not a new character we haven't seen yet. Which is why I sort of go the Bruce Banner, Hank Pym. Rocket is also totally cool. Like there's the version where, she and Captain Marvel have had adventures in space. And so, there's it could be Nebula.
Jared Babel says it's her Skrull friend from Captain Marvel. That would make sense too. She was hanging out with the little Skrull kid, wasn't she, in the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of the fun of a show like this, where it's like, in 3 weeks we'll know all the answers, but right now we're like, but it could be, and it could be. Yeah. What if it was? Paul Bettany, the show. I mean, look, both of them are killing it, showing wonderful acting chops. Once again, Elizabeth gets showcase moments. Her dealing with her kids this week was like, it caused my wife Jen to be like, does she have children? And I was like, I don't think so. Maybe she's married, but I don't think she's got kids. I was like, she's not like an Instagram person, so I don't know anything about her really. She goes, well, if she doesn't have kids, that's a really good performance, because that sounded exactly like a parent. When she was like, look at me and focus. She was like, that was so, after she fucking zapped Pietro across the fucking square when he was like, your dead husband can't die again. And she fucking hit him with some hex magic and shit. And then she turns to the kid and she's like, focus. And the kids are staring at what she just did. She had a really intense moment. And also I loved it when she like stopped the town and then fucking, grew the walls and shit. But Paul Bettany had this really fucking sweet, subtle moment right at the top of the show when he first came down in the outfit. And she complimented him on the outfit. And he said, like, just so shitty. He was just like, well, it was the only thing in my closet. And then he looks at him and then he's like, you charming, no good, and then turned it on and shit. But for that moment, you saw clarity. Like he's he's trying to get out, as we saw in this episode, as he went looking, as he talked to Agnes. I don't know if I buy the Agnes thing as like she's been zapped out of it or something like that. That might have been, she's been too prominent a character to just be, you know, fucking controlled like everybody else. Or maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, I thought Mephisto wasn't in it. So at that point, Vision goes for the wall and walks through. And what I took out of that is, as he got out into reality, what happened to him in reality comes back. Mm-hmm. So he was just blown up and destroyed. And he showed him disintegrating. But when they last showed him, he was in pieces, right? So my assumption is he would eventually revert back to what he looked like before they got him. Either way, he was fucking dying. And Paul Bettany had a really great moment there too, where he was like, help. And which at first you never hear a hero fucking say help. And that was just harrowing in and of itself. But then they cut to Darcy and they come back to him and he goes, help the people. And I love that, because if that ain't fucking superheroes, what the fuck is? The dude is literally falling apart and dying, reality taking him piece by piece, and he's still fucking trying to help others and shit. I absolutely love that fucking moment. But it was so dope when she was like, focus, you got to tell me where he is. And Wiccan was like, I see soldiers and shit like that. And then phew, she just like stopped and fucking expanded the walls. Turning Sword into the circus was like brilliant. Turning them all into clowns was a real stroke of brilliance as well. She's now expanded the parameters of Westview, which means she could probably keep going and expand it to the world. And, you know, there goes your Avengers level threat right there. I mean, it's no longer localized. We've seen, and as you saw from the outside, it was hexagonal shaped. It had like real corners to it and shit like that. So I think he did. I think Paul Bettany had some nice moments to work with this week and last week and stuff, but I'm still way more invested in Wanda's story. I love it, especially like this week where she talked to her brother about being like alone. She was describing depression as she sat there, and she was just like, and who can't fucking, like, there are a lot of people who can really straight up identify with that, but who can't identify with like getting the blues? And some people fucking really like, it's beyond the blues. It's fucking clinical and shit. And the lead of our show is essentially exemplifying that, you know, like to me, it's incredibly fucking engrossing. Her sad story keeps me fucking coming back, and watching her try to like keep up the joy as things are now slowly unraveling, you know, has been the height of drama for me. That's definitely the show that I showed up to watch for sure. Back to you.
No, I see all of that. And I think that, you know, the deeper we get into the show and the more these things, the more the drama actually gets to be on the surface, the more invested I am in it. I'm less actively invested in Wanda, only because it's still Wanda as the bad guy for Vision trying to figure out his life is a little bit more tactile, a want, than Wanda struggling to contain this thing with no real antagonist at play. You know, she's her own antagonist, which is like interesting from a cerebral kind of point of view, but it's hard to dramatize. And she's doing a lot of work, and a lot of it's very strong. And I think the further we get into it, the more that conflict becomes clear. But I'm still a little bit more, you know, I'm on the side of the prisoner trying to escape than the warden trying to keep the prison together.
A lot of people in chat, Mark, are pointing out that the wall extension could keep going all the way to Red Bank, New Jersey, and engulf Jay and Silent Bob's secret stash. Something tells me if that happened, nothing would change.
We're all still clowns. We're all still clowns.
At the end of the day, her powers have nothing on Jay and Silent Bob secret stash ability to remain very trapped in time. Like, can't take it out of there. It was the kids. I'll be honest with you. My way into this episode wasn't as fluid and clear as the last episode, because I was not a big Malcolm in the Middle guy. And I realized it was because at this point in this decade of sitcoms, like by 94, I was like making Clerks and it was at Sundance and shit. So I was making stuff. Prior to that, I lived through like all of the sitcoms that they had presented or watched them on like fucking reruns or something. So when they started as Malcolm in the Middle, I was like, oh, well, I guess that makes sense. But I didn't have the same emotional connection to it that I had to, say, the Family Ties opening that they did last week. What about you?
Yeah, similar. You know, like the Dennis the Menace style precocious kid sitcom was never my favorite mode of sitcom. So I was just like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. I don't care that much, but I see what you're doing. And it's always a spot on recreation of the mood of those kinds of shows.
Everyone in the chat is going like, Malcolm in the Middle was 2000. Yeah, I know. But, I don't, did they do the 90s?
You know, I mean,
I thought
maybe this is also like
was a mixture of the 80s and 90s. I mean, I know it was like Family Ties, but they also had, I don't know. I guess, yeah, somebody's saying, Mike is saying in chat that Modern Family is next. Wouldn't that be the 2000s or is that the 2010s?
That's the 2010s, I think.
Because I know that there was footage of her talking directly to camera.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was like Malcolm in the Middle started in the 90s. I'm not fucking crazy. Weren't they doing Malcolm in the Middle?
Very much. It's like Malcolm in the Middle, a little bit of Parker Lewis Can't Lose, a little bit of like Doogie Howser, that kind of like video confessional, you know, first person to the screen kind of thing.
Weird that they didn't do Seinfeld. I mean, I guess that's not a family sitcom.
Right.
And somebody, Anthony Prone saying, Kevin, you missed out. Malcolm was a terrific show. It'd be funny if Married with Children was next. Married with Children would have been the 80s because that's when that shit started. I was there for it. I watched that fucking day one.
It was like, it was Married with Children and The Simpsons and Cosby. And clearly they're not doing Cosby, but those were all on kind of at the same time.
So that means that like if they're doing Modern Family next, then there might be The Office with that fucking rack focusy shit and whatnot. Like that would be. Would that be the 2000s or the 2010s?
Although The Office is before Modern Family.
Yeah, you're right. And The Office is not a family sitcom, so maybe they don't touch that.
Right. But the documentary style, like we're going to sit down and do interviews of people, you know, giving confessionals.
Do they do that? I've never watched Modern Family. Do they do that on Modern Family? Like talk to camera?
Yeah. You know, and sometimes they have, you know, clusters of characters, like we're all being interviewed and it's, you know, mom and dad and there's grandpa and whatever. And
William Seek said the intro was Real World from early 2000s. That intro was Malcolm in the Middle, no?
Yeah.
Like it exactly, am I crazy? What am I? I'm like, these people got me thinking I'm high, and I am, but like,
so high then, and you don't remember.
Aren't we all in agreement? Malcolm in the Middle trended the night that the episode dropped, and not because we all suddenly remembered it, because of the opening credits of the show. It's always interesting to see like what people see and what you see and what other people fucking see. Nuts.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a good episode. You know, I am not.
Wasn't as good, and this isn't a knock, but I wasn't as like into it as I was the previous week episode. And I like that Wanda showed her powers and fucking fucked with the outside world, but it was way better for me personally when she went out and fucking confronted them and was like, you know, talking to them and shit like that. So by virtue of like, if somebody was like, you're going to a desert island, you could pick only one episode, 5 or 6, I would definitely pick 5. But 6 had some good stuff in it.
You know, like I am no longer in the, I wish I'd never watched this show, or I could have abandoned it at episode 2, which I felt at episode 2. I mean, and we all fucking knew that I was going to watch all of it. I knew I was going to watch all of it. But I'm not in love with the show, but I like it, you know, and I'm hoping by the end of it, the payoff is strong enough to eventually shift into love.
Dre Batista said something here that made me go, holy shit. Doctor Strange sent Quicksilver. At the talk, he didn't say, I am your brother. I could be all this time. Maybe it's Doctor Strange sending somebody else. And I forgot he's showing up. So it could be him. Somebody fucking tweeted something. And it was such a strong tweet that I took a screenshot. I got to find it and read it to you because it really fucking blew my mind, where I was like, oh, and I hope they're right. Because I was like, if this is it, man, that is so fucking cool. I'm trying to find it because I want to give this cat their fucking proper due. It is it him? Yes. Andrew Pooley. Andrew Pooley, Pooley 11 on Twitter. He wrote to both of us. And Andrew said, ready for this? I have a theory for you guys. What if all the people who were snapped or blipped came back as mutants? That's a way to do it, bro.
It's definitely a way to do it, although that's a lot of fucking mutants, including lots of people we've already seen before, but
probably not it, but what a great theory. I would have liked that guy in my writer's room. I would have said, you, Jeff's kiss. And they would have said, who's Jeff?
Right, but I like where your brain's going.
Jeff is one of my friends. Jeff's kiss. I give it to you. They did the blood test with Monica Rambeau and revealed that she's being changed at a molecular level.
Mm-hmm.
So that means they're setting her up for what? Photon? Or potentially Captain Marvel herself, because she eventually does become Captain Marvel. But some people are like, oh my God, she's a mutant. That's not what a mutant is. A mutant is born, at least according to Marvel Comics, a mutant is born with a genetic abnormality that makes them special or gives them an ability. Right. A mutate is somebody like, fucking Matt Murdock, Peter Parker, Ben Grimm, things that science have happened to that have changed them and given them powers, but they were not born with that ability. So technically speaking, if we were, they could do whatever they want in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but technically speaking, Monica Rambeau can't be a mutant. She would be a mutate. So if anything, perhaps, what they're going to tell us is that there have always been mutants, and that just like fucking with the Mind Stone released her mutant powers and her brother's mutant powers, maybe this shit that she's doing is going to do the same thing, where it'll awaken people who have these latent mutant powers. Like, so maybe that mutants have been with us all along, but in a reverse of House of M, she's just going to be like more mutants and snap everybody who has a mutant gene goes on, and then they become mutants. Because you're right, it couldn't be half the world.
Right.
That would be way too many mutants. Then you get to that fucking House of M storyline quick, where it's like no more mutants.
Off of that, the idea that everybody who is within the boundaries of Westview has had their molecular structure already affected.
I'll take that, bro, because that means every mutant's from New Jersey. I get so proud. Whenever they say New Jersey on the show, I look at my wife where I'm like, as if I had something to do with it, where I'm like, Jersey represent. What else to say about the show? Anything other than fuck, I was mad when it was over, but you just made me so happy by saying the next 3 episodes were like an hour a pop. Fuck, man. It's gonna be.
I keep watching the credits, hoping that there will be something at the end of them, because the credits are like 19 minutes long, and I keep hoping that some of those minutes is like content. It never is.
Never is. This guy MG said on chat, Hayward is building Sentinels. I've seen that expressed a few times on online. People are saying, remember they walked through that big hangar with the high ceilings and shit? Somebody was like, he's probably building Sentinels. That would be fucking badass.
I keep wanting Monica Rambeau to just punch him in the face when he was like, I'm so glad your mother's dead because she would hate what you've become. It's like, oh, this motherfucker needs some.
I keep thinking too, he's like too fucking bad to be a bad guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's going to be a Shyamalan-like twist where, he's an asshole, but he's a good guy. Because if they make him just the bad guy, it's like, oh, well, I guess, yeah, that made sense. He was always kind of a bad guy.
Right. I mean, unless he's a Skrull, and this is also setting up Secret Invasion.
See, I was going to compare him to Peter Coyote and fucking E.T. Maybe he's neutral. I like your fucking Skrull thing much better, man. Ooh, yeah. A bad Skrull?
A bad Skrull.
Kevin in chat which I guess is my conscience, asks, what is JC's opinion? Shall we get JC's opinion on all this?
Sure. What's the man think?
I don't know. And what opinion is he looking for exactly?
Darcy
just went through the wave. What do you think happens to Darcy?
She can pick up the hammer now.
I think that I thought it was the changing the DNA. I thought was an interesting touch that they specifically called that out. But it would be weird if all mutants were from Westview, New Jersey. I think.
Says you.
Don't
they have their own island, like Genosha or some shit? Like they're already like grouped into a place. Why not be New Jersey?
The two things.
Amazing, my home state, dude. Don't take that from us.
I lived in Hoboken for a few years. I've got a little Jersey in me.
Then you should be rooting for this. You should back this plan.
The two things that stuck out to me were The Incredibles and The Parent Trap. We're on the movie.
The Incredibles because Speedy Dash, and his sister has weird powers. Mm-hmm. That's what I figured. And Parent Trap, I figured because there were two Pietros.
Somebody in the chat mentioned is Incredibles a Fantastic Four reference, a very subtle Fantastic Four reference.
Thank God we do this show, because yes. It absolutely could be a fucking subtle Fantastic Four reference.
And then the other thing I really enjoyed was, I believe when Pietro took the kids out trick-or-treating, Wanda is like, why doesn't he look familiar? Kick-Ass. And I loved that they called out Kick-Ass.
As having two Pietros in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cute. When she said it, I was like,
there it is.
I understand that reference. You think it's Mephisto, JC?
I don't know much about Mephisto, but based on what everybody's saying, I think the internet makes a strong case for Mephisto.
J. David Murphy said, I said Captain America screwed up taking the stone back. That would be interesting too, if it had something to do with that. New Jersey, I just saw somebody, they didn't say it in point blank language, but they said New Jersey is the home of the New Jersey Devil. So it could be that, not the New Jersey Devil, but like maybe that's a subtle hint. All along, New Jersey was and our bad guy is the New Jersey, or not the New Jersey Devil, but New Jersey Devil. Continues to be one of the most fascinating, watchable shows on TV. They're doing such a fantastic job. Shall we leave WandaVision for now?
Indeed, my friend.
I'm seeing if anybody in chat's got any final interesting thoughts. They're so helpful in the conversation because sometimes they remember shit we don't talk about. Neil Parker says Hayward and S.H.I.E.L.D. will make Ultron be a part of the Sentinels with Vision tied into it, then giving the mutant story. Well, Hayward seems very interested in getting pieces of Vision back. Like they had the synthezoid body, and clearly they're the weapons division now, so they want to weaponize him in some way.
There's a bit where I was a little confused, and by confused I just mean that it's a mystery that they haven't paid off yet, where Hayward starts talking about an asset they have inside the town.
Yeah.
Do you think that asset is Pietro? And I wonder if there's a version of Pietro who's not at all Pietro, but who might be like Taskmaster or something, like somebody who can mirror the powers of Quicksilver but isn't. And so her testing him and him not passing the test but deflecting the test. Do you remember when we were kids and our mothers and blah, blah, blah? He's like, you're testing me. I see you. You can trust me. I'm your brother.
Yeah. Could be Doctor Strange, but it is more like the devil. I don't know why, but a lot of people online reference Wonder Man. But I'm like, I can't see them doing it this way, but who knows? Dottie has been missing for a while. And we see the townspeople all the time. Mm-hmm. So there feels like there's something there. The fact that we don't see Dottie anymore, but we were told that, like, in that episode, well, Dottie's in, charge of everything or whatever the fuck. So I feel like Emma Caulfield, who we're, fucking almost had on the show, and then we've been playing phone tag with or whatever. I feel like, there may be more to that storyline than they've let on. You?
We got 3 more episodes. I do think that there is, to your point, why set up a character that big and never come back to her again? I get the feeling we get something else.
There's a lot of people in chat saying that info leaked, and I'm not going to share that info in case it's right or if anyone knows it. But if it is, that would be amazing. And, remember, we all heard about Evan Peters because of a leak. So I guess
Don't look at it.
Jeff's kiss to the potential leak rumor, if it's true. If it's the case, it's going to make everybody happy and everybody's going to fucking win Emmys. Do you think they do another one of these? Yeah, Dre Batista points out he never said I'm your brother. SMG says Dottie is another sorceress who, along with Agnes, helped whomever Mephisto set up this Rosemary's Baby situation. That's what it is. Kind of a Rosemary's Baby situation. Like, they wanted her to have these fucking kids so that they could steal those kids, like, which is kind of what they did in the comics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Ultron still hasn't shown up yet. I think that's kind of weird. Why are strawberries a massive clue? Somebody said strawberries are a massive clue. It's totally Agnes's husband, Ralph. Dude is Mephisto. Go back and watch how Agnes talks about Ralph. Yeah, there are times when she references Ralph where you're like, oh, maybe he's... Simon Williams says Dottie equals Pietro equals Mephisto. That's true too. Mephisto could be wearing many faces throughout the show.
I saw this great meme, which was like, this dude with a butterfly landing on his finger. And it was like the dude was Marvel fans and the butterfly was just like, is this Mephisto? Like, anybody could be Mephisto. Like, is this character Mephisto? Is this character Mephisto? How about them all being Mephisto?
Who was it? Eric Birch said, what's the leak rumor? It is regarding the Luke Skywalker level cameo.
Yes. Which I don't want to know, and I don't know why people want to know.
Yeah, and truly, especially you're this deep in it. There's only 3 episodes left, and 3 episodes of an hour apiece. What happens to Darcy? Do you think her DNA gets rewritten? Does she become somebody?
I don't think so. I mean, she's not inside the bounds.
But she was at the end. The wall hit her. She was like, "Oh, fudge!" And it went through, and we didn't see what happened to her. Like, we saw the wall hit sword people and they became clowns, but we didn't see what happened to Darcy.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're going to play fair with those rules, then if everybody in there that happens to them, then it's going to happen to her. But, if it's a low level, pass through, I think the fear was that, Monica has gone through twice already. And then the 3rd time might be irrevocable. And so if Darcy's inside and she just passed through once, maybe that's not enough to do crazy amounts of DNA rescrambling.
Somebody said Dormammu, but it can't be. Doctor Strange and Dormammu made a deal that he would never come back to our world.
Yeah.
People are like, what are you, fucking dumb? He's like an interdimensional demon. You think he's going to honor his word? Yeah, man. Otherwise, fucking Doctor Strange, trap him in a time loop, man. He brought time with him. And Dormammu was like, no. Totally fucking.
I feel like we've gotten to the point of theorizing where people are just like, I know a name. And then that's the name. What if it's Dormammu? Sure. Frost Giant?
Once again, we've got a painful fucking 6-day wait until the next episode.
Indeed. Might have to watch something else.
Yeah, I don't remember watching anything else this week. That was it.
Yeah.
Waiting for that shit the whole time.
I caught up on The Stand.
Did you watch the whole thing? Is it done?
It's done. I'm 2 episodes from the end.
I watched the first 2.
Yeah, it's not great.
Is that right? First two, I was like, all right, but I haven't gone back to it. It didn't it wasn't like WandaVision where I'm like, get out of my way.
Yeah, yeah. Like they take some liberties with the chronology of the story.
They did in the first two episodes alone, where I was like, whoa, well,
Yeah,
somebody is being a little free with this King text. But then I understand that King wrote the last episode or wrote a new ending for it or something.
yeah. Like the book ends with, like, spoilers. The conflict is resolved between the forces of good and the forces of evil.
And so it's done. Like the whole thing is finished.
Yeah, like it's only ever meant to be just, it's a miniseries.
Right.
But King then apparently went in and wrote like an epilogue for some of the characters. Like, here's what happens after the big climactic battle is over. Yeah, like there's just it makes decisions that kind of are a little bit mystifying. The first of which is monkeying with the narrative. Like, it's a very clean throw from let's tell the story of how this disease breaks out to the effects of this disease to here's the new world these people start to build. And the first like 4 episodes start just like, Tarantinoing it for kind of no good reason. It doesn't amplify the experience at all. It just makes it a little bit more confusing. And then, towards the tail end of it, the most recent episode that I saw introduces Trash Can Man, who in the book and in the first miniseries, the Mick Garris miniseries, was played by Matt Frewer. He's sort of this like pyromaniac character who's also kind of smart, but also a little touched and, clearly a little like neuroatypical. Ezra Miller now plays Trash Can Man, and it's offensive, honestly. Like, to both the spirit of the book and to neuroatypical people out there, like
Wait, who's playing the part?
Ezra Miller,
The Flash?
the Flash.
And he's not good.
He's not just the choices that he makes, the choices the miniseries makes. You know, it's I'm way more sensitive to these things than I used to be. But playing somebody who's clearly on the spectrum and having the book the book does it, but this miniseries especially does it, is anybody who seems neuroatypical is also bad, which feels wrong, or at the very least is meant to be a victim, which is also wrong.
Who was the character that was like Moon? That's
Yeah, Tom. I can't remember his last name. Who's in the miniseries and is played sometimes for laughs. Definitely kind of the butt of lots of jokes. Does retain some level of empathy, and I think a lot of that is that actor doing that work.
Right.
But the Ezra Miller of it all is just embarrassing. But yeah, I mean, I'll watch it all just because I'm curious and I love the book. But this definitely seems to be the inferior adaptation of it.
All right. We're clearly done with WandaVision, kids. But while we're on the subject of things that we've watched that's not WandaVision, Mark, have you watched Judas and the Black Messiah?
No, that's tonight's mission.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Like, oh my, the performances are fucking sublime. It's a story that like I didn't know all the particulars of, but like, oh my God, it's so well directed, so well acted, so well cast. What did I just watch? I finally watched Black Klansman, which I had seen the first 20 minutes of and then never finished and stuff, but I just finally watched it all the way down. Another exquisitely cast and made movie, but like that's Spike. He's always great. But yeah, Judas and the Black Messiah is so worth watching. What is it, on HBO or
HBO Max?
HBO Max. I think we had an early screener, so I got to watch it like a week or two ago. But it was incredibly fucking well made. And what's the actor's name? The lead, Daniel
Kaluuya.
So fucking good.
Yeah.
Is that dude was British?
Yeah.
You would never know. Like he's just so fucking good, man. Everything he's in. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. Excellent. I'm trying to think if I watched anything else new this week. I think that's about it, man.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about Wanda, kids. Next week we'll talk about more Wanda. We got an hour of it to digest. That'll be amazing. Then they can take their time. There's always a point in the show where I fucking check the time because I'm like, we must be getting fucking close here. Like I want to know how much longer before the disappointment comes where it's like, oh man,
is that it?
Hour episode? That's gonna be good. All right. Let's talk about the news. Mark is a newsman, of course. And as an old newsman, he knows how to get the fucking thoughts on the news. What about talk about the David Lynch Dune commentary? Oh, the one we should do. I was like, you did one? Yeah, one week we will. We'll do it right here live on the show. We'll just watch it, off camera and shit. You could sync up with us. And then we'll fucking Muad'Dib that shit. Because my name is a killing word.
It's the strength of the base of the pillar.
Mark always has the deeper cuts line. All right, fucking deep cuts. What do you got collected for the news? I know. Hey, can I start with the news item?
Sure, please do.
JC, jump on. We're gonna kill two birds with one stone. Watch this shit. All right, so in the news, kids, we finally got to a little taste of Masters of the Universe. This Masters of the Universe show that Mattel and Netflix keep telling us is coming and shit. And, we've seen no proof of it whatsoever. But I saw a video this week where one of the jackasses that works on the show was waving his hands around like a Muppet and talking about how they scored the great Bear McCreary for their composer. And is it possible, JC? I know when we play things from YouTube, we always get thrown off. But if we play something from our own channel, I can't imagine they throw us off, can they?
I don't think so. And I also, because you're the only one who has that music, there's no way it's in their database of screw these people up again. Yeah.
I think they have finally found a way to fuck the algorithm. It's taken us a long time, but I think we're finally going to be able to show something where we won't get thrown off while we're showing it. I'm so delighted by that. Do you have it? Can you roll that?
Let's see. Oh, Motu music review. Do you want me to just roll the whole thing? Do we want to put it, how do we want it to look?
Go into like middle. That's when the queue begins and stuff. I just want to grab a smoke and Facebook is all fucking.
Okay. Let me,
so they can for a second or two watch. This is the opening, the transformation theme that Bear McCreary came up with for Masters of the Universe Revelation. I went to the mix. We mixed episodes 1, 2, and 3 so far. So we mixed 2 and 3 on Thursday. 3 is Mark's episode. And it's some fucking wonderful, wonderful shit. So I've heard his scores for episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 4 is insanely fucking metal. So what you're going to hear is just the transformation cue. And when I say just, meaning like it's not the whole episode, it's just the moment where, Prince Adam fucking raises his sword and fabulous magical powers are revealed unto him. And so we can't show it, the cartoon yet, because Netflix is like, they know what they're doing at Netflix. And the fact that they let us do this was crazy. Like that they were like, yeah, let's do a video where we watch you watching the cartoon and hearing the song. That'd be great. So they allowed us to do this, how it happened was Bear had sent me his cues and I shot a video reacting to the cue rather than type to him so he could see my reaction in real time. And he loved it. And then he sent it to Rob over at Mattel, or I sent it to Rob. And Rob sent it to Teddy, our boss at Netflix. And so we were talking about when to and how to announce Bear as composer. And so Teddy goes, why don't you do it with that fucking video where like you watched it? He's like, that was so entertaining. And so like, it made me happy. And you can't show a cartoon, but you could literally see the joy on your face and stuff. So let's do that. And so we put together this clip that we dropped on Monday. We're not going to watch the whole thing. In the first half of it, I blah, blah, blah and shit. But we'll pick it up from where the music kind of kicks in. You'll hear Chris Wood doing one of the most famous phrases in pop culture history, saying as Prince Adam, by the power of Grayskull. And then you'll also hear, I have the power, you know, as he becomes He-Man and shit. So, JC, can we play that?
Yeah, I'm going to bear with me because I'm going to start it and then I'll have to fast forward it. So what, it's about 3 minutes.
It's only like 3 minutes or 2.5. So if you want to play the whole thing, that's fucking fine. That'll give me more than enough time to fucking burn this down.
Okay. You guys should mute on. Oh no, I can mute you without. I got it. Okay, here we go.
All right, kids. Here's the taste.
It's me, Kevin Smith, and I got an announcement for you. You know, I've been working for Mattel and Netflix, making this Masters of the Universe Revelation series that's going to debut on the streamer. I am happy, pleased, proud, ecstatic, really, to announce our composer. We scored a composer, and he's scoring for us, ladies and gentlemen. And that composer is none other than Metal Maestro himself, the great Bear McCreary, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, the man who gave us the score to The Walking Dead, Battlestar Galactica, remember those drums? Boom, 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 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Outlander. He's doing the score for Masters of the Universe Revelation. He's working on it right now, and he just sent me the first cue, his first pass, the very first cue of our show, which is the transformation sequence. When Prince Adam holds the power sword aloft and says the magic words and fabulous powers are revealed to him, and he becomes He-Man. So I'm going to listen to it. Let's listen to it together, man, at the same time. What you're going to hear right at the top of it before Bear's music kicks in is perhaps one of the most famous phrases in pop culture history, spoken by our Prince Adam / He-Man himself, the great Christopher Wood. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Bear goes into the woods. Let's see what he comes out with. Let's check this out, man.
By the power of Grayskull.
Oh, come on.
I have the power!
Oh, that rocks. Oh, Bear. Oh, Bear. Bear, man. Look at it. Well, you can't see it, but listen to it. It is perfect. Perfect. This is the transformation sequence right here. This is where Cringer, the sword is turned on Cringer and he becomes Battle Cat. Oh! Ah! Ladies and gentlemen, that's a first pass by a genius. I can't wait. By the power of Grayskull, man. That is fantastic. Bear McCreary is our composer, ladies and gentlemen. The show is called Masters of the Universe Revelation, and it'll be out in 2021 on Netflix.
Come on. That shit was so metal. It's got smoke in the air and it's making me cough. That's how fucking metal it was. Bear McCreary is doing a wonderful job. That show is absolute magic. I adore it. I can't wait to share it with you. They'll tell me when that's going to happen soon. But oh man, like we're getting to a place, a very important milestone in our production process we're about to hit. And I can't even give you that information because it spoils too much, but it's we're in a very, very excellent place. And I've seen the toy designs. They're doing like toys, not just He-Man toys, but toys literally based on the Powerhouse designs, like from our story. Shit that we wrote is resulting in fucking new versions of these figures. That is like let's see, in the chat, this is ironic. Jason Garza said, as much as I love the show, I really feel like Kev is starting to focus too much on chat. He gets lost in it. I completely disagree. But I also have other people who are like, why don't you look at chat more? Like, you can't win them all.
Well, it'll all change.
Read something here. Do you have this in the news? Favreau leaving the project Rangers of the New Republic.
When did that break?
I don't know. Somebody put it in chat. A guy named My House wrote, Favreau leaving the project Rangers of the New Republic. Your thoughts on losing the character of Cara Dune? I assume that Cara Dune's story is in our news, isn't it?
That is the first item, yes.
Then let's start the news. Ladies and gentlemen, Marc Bernardin goes out of his goddamn way to bring you the news. So fucking listen up. Where's my newspaper? We're doing the news. That's what we've been missing all this time. A prop. We could be like fucking Carrot Top or something like that. He works Vegas. He sells out Vegas. This is every time we did the new news, we got to pull out one of these. All right, newsman, hit us.
Yeah, this week, every week it's always like, are we going to have enough news to have like a news segment this week? And like,
hey, I got something.
Ooh, what?
What's black and white and hurt all over? Mark and Kev doing the news, man. I can't believe it's taken me nearly like 10 years to come up with that.
Outstanding.
That's writing right there. You just literally saw writing happen. All right, what's the top story?
It is Gina Carano, who will not be returning to The Mandalorian or the Star Wars galaxy in any way, following, a series of posts. It's not an isolated occurrence. Just her most recent was sort of comparing life as a Republican to, say, being Jewish during the Holocaust.
Well, I mean, for the last post she did?
Yes, that was the most recent one.
Yeah, and like by saying like, well, she compared being Republican to being Jewish in the Holocaust was like almost like, well, what was her theory, Mark? But like when you saw the actual post, it was kind of bracing. I remember reading it when it went up because like before it entered deep into the news cycle, I was reading the news when it first popped in. And I read it and I was like, man, like, fucking, you're not afraid of getting fired? Like, is one whether these are the things she believes and feels, that's completely different. But like, you got a job to protect. Like, you work for a company that sells to kids. Like, this just seems like, I know a lot of people are like, this is censorship or fucking, they're going after conservatives. But hey, man, like, I worked for Disney at one point. Fuck around and find out. Like they don't give a fuck about you at the end of the day. If you cost them $1 fucking, oh my God, you're a persona non fucking grata. And that was for me when I was just an adjunct because of like Miramax, because Disney owned Miramax at one point. You're like, when you're the star upfront, character of like one of their most popular shows, like you can say anything you want in this world, but you cannot expect to stay employed by a children's television company if you're going to say some shit that like makes their shareholders like upset. And this is not me saying she should be and blah, blah, blah. This is just me going like, are you kidding me? Of course. Like, look what happened to James Gunn. James Gunn wrote some Lord tweets back in the day. Then they fucking fired him for like 2 years. So much so that he had to go to fucking Warner Brothers, and get a Suicide Squad job. And then Marvel came back and said, all right, well, maybe we went too far or whatever the fuck. But like these cats at Disney, they don't fuck around, man. Like fucking, they're there to sell Coca-Cola, fucking, churros, not anymore, but fucking, they're in the business of selling shit to you and your family and your kids. And they don't want to hear a fucking thing about controversy. So, this to me was like, well, I guess, of course, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it is somewhat of a no-brainer. And again, it is, I've also heard people saying it's like, well, this never happens when somebody on the far left says something awful. It's like, well, you know what the far left never summons? Nazis. Like, never. The Holocaust is never a thing the far left is bringing up in any way to compare to anybody.
But wait, so is the argument that nobody from the far left has ever lost their job for saying some shit on a show?
Apparently.
I mean, I don't want to do this deep dive, but I'm sure you could fucking come up with examples and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's not the point. Like,
it's not the point. The point is, like, when you're an employee of a company, that company has a conduct policy. Almost everyone does. And if you violate that conduct policy, then you find yourself on the bleeding edge of having a job. And that's kind of where Gina Carano found herself. And it's also
Dre Batista in chat goes, Disney wanted so much a strong woman that would bow to no one, and when they got one, they wanted a strong woman character.
Yes,
like
they wrote.
Yeah, which they did. They wrote. And that's what they wanted. They didn't want a strong woman who would then just say things that would make them lose sales and shit like that. And again, this ain't me. Like, people are like, Kev's a shill now. Number one, I think I've always been a shill because I fucking love to talk about the things I love to talk about. A shill, though, kids, gets paid to do it. So if I'm a shill, I'm a bad shill because I fucking suck WandaVision's giant cock right in front of everybody. Like, I'm fucking eating Carvel ice cream every week and I don't get a fucking dime. I don't even get offered jobs. So I'm not a shill. I'm just a fan of things. And I'm a fan of The Mandalorian, and I had no problem with her name's not Cara Dune, is it? That's her character's name.
Yeah, Gina Carano.
Gina Carano. I had no problem with her, and I liked her character in the show. But this ain't up to me. I didn't fucking fire her, but I damn Skippy understand that if you work for the fucking Mickey Mouse, you're gonna get in trouble. I mean, maybe, thank God nobody fucking remembers this, but I worked for fucking Disney way back in the day when we did the Clerks cartoon, and I said some shit after the show got canceled that got me, quote unquote, canceled at the fucking company, forever. So they run a tight fucking ship over there. I'm not saying good for them. I'm just saying everybody knows that. Could have seen this coming, man.
Yeah, anybody who's ever held a job knows that there's certain things that you can and cannot do and or say when working in that job, especially if that job involves you being a public person. And I think that people might be surprised to learn, but probably shouldn't, that yes, Hollywood as a quote unquote institution tends to lean liberal, but you know who's at the top of these corporations? Really, really, really fucking rich white guys. And you know what really, really, really rich white guys are? Conservative. Kind of all of them are. But they understand they've got to sell to an audience. And the Disney audience just doesn't want to think about this. And it's not just this particular tweet, because if you read the wording of the press release very carefully, it says, Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm and there are no plans for her to be in the future. Meaning they didn't just fire her. She already didn't have a job.
Meaning this, so your read on that, if I'm to understand this correctly, is we just found out that she doesn't have a job anymore, but this probably happened a red hot minute ago.
Yeah, so according to Variety, they say, according to sources, Lucasfilm planned to unveil Carano as the star of her own Disney Plus series during a December Investors Day presentation, but scrapped those plans following her November tweets, which were about mocking mask wearing amid the novel, coronavirus pandemic, and falsely suggesting voter fraud occurred during the election. They had kind of already put her on ice and decided, you are not actually going to be the star of Rangers of the New Republic. You might be kind of done. And, this also might speak to, if she's in Mandalorian season 3 at all.
Well,
that
they
might
said
already
no.
be the camp.
They said, yeah, they said no. They said there was, I read something somewhere where there was no season 3 Mandalorian, no plans for her to be in season 3 of The Mandalorian prior to this or whatever. Oh, that's interesting. So this didn't happen 10 minutes ago. This happened last year. We're just finding out about it now.
Yeah, I think this right now is the answer to the fired Gina Carano, because as far as the audience knows, she's still tied to Star Wars. And they have decided to make it clear, no, she's not. And also hasn't been for a while.
Problem here, Mark, is that in chat, people are getting kind of shitty because they read this as a political conversation. I don't think we're being political about this at all. We're just fucking telling you the news and shit like that.
Yeah.
but I figure I bring a cute dog into it to calm things down.
It is to your point, not a political conversation. It is, if you violate a company's, standards and practices and codes of conduct, there are repercussions for that. There is 100% freedom of speech in this country. I just think a lot of people don't understand what that freedom of speech is, which means the government cannot censor what you say. And the government cannot censor the news organizations that may or may not decide to reprint what you say. But it in no reason guarantees you freedom from repercussions for what you do say. And that's not a governmental thing. This is a company thing. This is a corporate thing. This is you just think whatever you want to think. Just keep it to yourself.
One thing I did see, I want to put this dog down, but I really feel like she's lightening the mood. And I know I can't put her down because I'm sure the Joss Whedon story is next. So it's a tough week for the fucking news, I'll be honest with you. But here's my question. There you go. What were we just talking about? I was distracted by the adorable guy.
Yes, freedom from repercussions.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. There's really nothing much to say. It's weird that we're only like finding out about it now. I guess it's not weird. If anything, they would have loved to have quietly just gotten to the next season and have people be like, what happened to Cara Dune, and like dealt with it then. But now they're answering questions. That was the thing I was going to say. So did you see the thing I saw online that was trending for like a minute was cancel Disney Plus? How many people, Mark, do you think seriously would cancel Disney Plus over this? Like, and that's not me being political. That's not a fucking blue state, red state, whatever. I'm just serious. Like, in the middle of WandaVision, who the fuck is like, they got to be dangling your child over a cliff in order for you to be like, you know what? Cancel Disney Plus. Because they got us right now. Fucking they got us right after WandaVision. Did you see that fucking Falcon and the Winter Soldier trailer? That I'm sure we won't be able to watch, or else we'll be thrown off the internet. Yeah. Like, and then after that, they'll get us with another fucking thing. And then the Mandalorian's back. Like, you ain't going nowhere, man. Like, I saw cancel Disney Plus. I'm like, yeah, right. I felt like Do the Right Thing, where they're like, bugging out, trying to get people to cancel fucking Sal. And he's like, as good as that pizza is, like, no way. Yeah, it was one of the big news stories this week, but we should probably move on before people.
I will just say that I'm pretty sure, like on page 3 of the Journal of the Wills, it says, "Don't start none, won't be none."
I mean, I'm telling you, on page 1, Walt Disney, the first thing that he ever wrote. A lot of people think it's Steamboat Willie with UBI Works and stuff. No way. It was the Book of Disney. And the first line literally says, and we still fucking share it today. I think it's put on a wall in Disneyland, stenciled on a wall. Fuck around, find out. It's that simple.
Talk shit, get hit.
Don't start none, there won't be none. It really like comes down to it and stuff. But you can't work for a company like that and say whatever you want. And that's not censorship. They're like, hey, you want to go say whatever you want? Great. You just can't fucking work here.
Yeah.
That's not censorship. That's not against the law. That's having a boss. Like my boss at fucking Long John's when I was a busboy in 1984 had the same fucking control over my life, at least while I was in the building. So it's like when you work for somebody, you don't get to say everything you want to say.
When I worked for the LA Times, it was literally part of the employee conduct handbook that you cannot tweet about politics at all, because it can be misconstrued that a employee of the Times' position is somehow also the LA Times' position, and they're like, you can't, like, it's a fireable offense. Don't do it at all. And like, okay, I get it. So for the year that I worked for you guys, I'm not tweeting about this stuff because that was a very, very clear thing you put forward and said is not on the table. This is not Gina's first offense in this regard. She'd been warned multiple times, hey, just maybe slow down, ease back. Think about it before you tweet it. And she refused to do that.
You know how you get around shit like this? Don't work for anybody. Like, I'm not saying I can say whatever I want because I'm fucking married and I got a conscience. But, you know, I don't have an employer that I'm like, you know, I got to worry about. However, if, you know, I hope to pick up side gigs of somebody being like, hey, you want to do a voiceover for this commercial? Or, hey, you want to fucking come do Masters of the Universe or something like that when I'm working for some other corporate structure? You think I'm going to go out there in the world and be like, here's what well, number one, I'm not controversial in the least. My controversial opinions are shit like, I don't think it is Mephisto. There, you know? But generally speaking, it's like, it's a trade-off. You know, you want to fucking be free to say whatever you want. You just can't have an employer who's like, you know, oh, we've got a bottom line to protect. But yeah, this, again, for anybody in chat who's like, oh, this is political. A lot of people keep saying Pedro Pascal did something similar. I don't know. I didn't hear that.
The thing that I'd heard, at least that surfaced this week, is that he was, I think he's got a relative, maybe it's a sibling, who's trans.
Yes.
And kind of came out in support of that person, which seems personal and doesn't seem outwardly political. It's not necessarily taking a side. It is just this person who is in my life and whom I love, I will stand behind. That seems relatively non-controversial to me. Now, if you have a position on trans folk and the LGBTQ community, that is not the stance that he's taking. He's just saying, this person's awesome, right? Right. It's not quite the same as saying, you know, because he does not summon Nazis. The minute you start talking about Nazis, you're probably on the wrong side of your corporate relationship. Perhaps you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's very tough to, unless your like argument with Nazis is like, we should never let that happen again. Then you're on the right side of the Nazi. Right.
Okay.
All right. Next up.
Yeah, let's get away from that and have some good old-fashioned fun, man. So that's got to be the worst story of the week, the most uncomfortable, tiptoe around it story. So what's the next fun, everyone can enjoy it, you know, story that will just slayer us, Mark?
Yes. Well, the women of the Buffy universe.
Oh, another sad story. Here we go. God damn it.
Detail their allegations against Joss Whedon. The dam broke when Charisma Carpenter, who played Cordelia Chase on Buffy and then Angel, put out this very lengthy post saying that she was inspired by Ray Fisher to sort of explain what had happened while she was an employee of Joss Whedon.
Oh, hold on. Just jumping in with Old School Shinobi clarifies that Pedro Pascal compared immigrant children separated from parents kept in cages to what happened to the Jews, which Old School Shinobi says, which isn't wrong. Yeah, that's what people were saying was the moral equivalent or something like that.
I guess perhaps he did summon Nazis into the equation, but it seems as if the parallels there were a little bit stronger. I would not have brought Nazis into it. That's just me.
Anwar Wilkerson says it's time to stop whining about political beliefs, chat. I'm with him. All right, back to the non-political, but equally as fucking uncomfortable and horrible Joss Whedon story. This all ties into, Ray Fisher, who we've spoken about on a few occasions. And just a few weeks ago, we were talking about unless you want to detail what happened, it's getting tougher to understand what you mean by inappropriate or whatever. But then Charisma Carpenter co-signed pretty hardcore, and she worked with Whedon on you'll have to excuse me. I'm this is not me fucking what do they call it, distancing myself. I'm not I'm gonna throw him under the bus. I'm not nearly the Buffy and Firefly fan that Marc Bernardin is.
Yes. In fact, I think before the show I was like, good luck, Firefly. Have fun with the news.
Yes, I know. It must be hard for a brown coat like yourself today.
There is always the if you live long enough, you will find that some of your heroes might not be heroic. And you will find that some people who make art that you love might not be the kinds of people you would like to associate yourself with. And we all have to, at some point, figure out how to disassociate the art from the artist. It's harder and harder because we learn more and more these days. You know, and especially aided by people like Charisma. Ooh, Buffy's back.
Just got to keep it sweet while this horrible shit's going.
Got to keep it sweet. But yes, Charisma Carpenter, you know, sort of detailed how, you know, Whedon abused his power on numerous occasions on the set of Buffy and Angel, including asking her after learning she was pregnant if she was going to keep it.
Just keep looking at the cute puppy, kids.
Cute puppy. She said that, yes, the pregnancy was incorporated into the show, but after she gave birth, she was fired.
I'd heard this story before this broke. I don't know where. And I'm not saying like I heard it from like, you know, inside sources. I think I read this someplace once.
Yeah, this isn't the first time she said it.
She talked about it at a con, I think.
Yeah, you know, she talked about it at a con. And
I remember when I read the story, and I'm not like fucking trying to throw fucking dirt on the grave, but I remember hearing it. When I read the story, I was like, you know, you can't fucking, you know, tell people like you can't have a baby because we're making a TV show. Like that's just,
yeah, you know, and then you can't fire somebody for having had a baby.
Is that what he did?
That is what she claims he did. You know, it's unclear. It's impossible to know the internal debate that went on about her dismissal that would require an investigation and testimony and so forth and so on. But from her perspective, and her story is when she actually gave birth and was ready to return back to work, the character was killed and she was fired. You know, and after she reveals all of that, sort of Sarah Michelle Gellar, yes.
And before we, you know what, this is inappropriate, but still, it has nothing to do with this topic whatsoever. This is not an allegation or an insinuation, but I just got to throw it out there because it was good. Anthony Perrone says Kevin just pulled out his wiener tonight again.
Twice.
Stick around, kids. You might see it a third time if the news gets any more depressing. All right, back to you. Sarah Michelle Gellar, who we know very well as Tila in Masters of the Universe Revelation. She jumped in and said she'd like, as much as she's happy and proud to be associated with Buffy for her whole life, for the rest of her life, she doesn't feel the same way about Whedon. Is that what it was?
Yes.
I don't want to put words in her mouth.
Her statement was, while I'm proud to have my name associated with Buffy Summers, I don't want to be forever associated with the name Joss Whedon. She's offered her support for everybody who's sort of coming forward. I stand with all survivors of abuse and I'm proud of them for speaking out, but she's not making any further statements on the matter.
Let me jump in with Spider Mensch on the fucking chat because this is interesting to me. He writes, whoop-de-doo, Joss Whedon, what the fuck? Don't hire that asshole again. While pricks like David O. Russell continue to work after what he did to Lily Tomlin on set and got recorded on camera for evidence. Did you ever see that fucking tape?
Yeah.
I mean, it is like that's like nuts. And nobody's ever explained it. They don't have to explain it. I'm not owed an explanation. But I watched that shit and I'm like, holy fuck. Like kids, just know that if you've ever seen that, that's not what it's like. And it never has to be that. Nobody ever has to yell at anybody on a set unless it's like, look out, the fucking sentinel is falling on you, like to save your life. But if they're just fucking screaming because, like, you know what it's like? It's like when you used to play with other kids when you were a kid and there's one fucking screamer who threw things and was ill-behaved. Like, don't play with that kid. But like, fucking, it never has to be like that. But that's not that David O. Russell thing, which as our commenter pointed out, like there's a video, Spider-Mensch pointed out, there's a video. You can see the video on YouTube. There is no, and this is not me defending Joss, but there's no video of Joss tearing people down. Although I understand one of the writers from Firefly this morning, like kind of said, yeah, no, I don't know if he was the one that called him casually cruel or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was Jose Molina who did say that like casually cruel is a perfect way to describe that matter. and his manner in both the writer's room and apparently on set.
And Marty Noxon, who's gone on to other great things and whatnot, but she was, I believe, started in Buffy. Didn't she come out and say something now as well?
Yeah, I mean, she talked about, you know, supporting everybody who is coming forth with their stories, but also saying that yes, she has, you know, been witness to, you know, the cruel workplace and has written extensively about how ways to sort of dismantle that level of kind of more often than not cruel male privilege that goes on with showrunners who once you're deemed a genius and once you start making millions and millions and millions of dollars for a company, that your conduct is sort of impenetrable, and has been for a long time. You know, much of the industry sort of coddled people who were just, you know what, you're great and brilliant, you can do whatever you want.
Adele Thomas in chat goes, what about if you aren't wearing your COVID mask? If I was on a set, in fact, I've been on a set. Yesterday, I went to, where's my phone? So this is what I did yesterday, Mark. I know there's a better way than holding up my phone to a screen to do this, but this will be good enough. Yesterday, I was on set and I was acting. And does anybody recognize that superhero? If you got kids, you might. That's me as super mega awesome ultra guy from the Storybots, Ask the Storybot show on Netflix. The boys that did Jib Jab years ago, those little cards you put your face on, a fucking cartoon and shit. They sold that company years ago so that they could make one season of this show called Ask the Storybots, which was it's adorable. It's like a modern day Sesame Street. So they self-financed it, built the show, and then they licensed it to Netflix. It did very well. Netflix was like, we'll pay for the next 2 seasons. And they paid for a Christmas special. And then the boys were going to be able to take it out to someplace else like Disney or Universal. And Netflix was like, we want to buy the whole thing. So they bought fucking Storybots and shit like that, which is awesome. So they're doing more Storybots. And they were like, Evan, who's one of the directors, and the 2 brothers, he was like, when I first saw him yesterday, I was like, I can't tell you the amount of shit I've done in my life. Like, I don't care what it is. Clerks, fucking, you know, I sold out Carnegie Hall, wrote a New York Times bestseller. Don't fucking matter. That one little episode, 5 minutes that I was on Storybots, not a week goes by where I don't get tweets or fucking Instagram comments or some messages about like, I was watching this fucking show with my kid and you showed up and shit. So he's going, look, I know exactly what you mean. He's going, between you and Snoop, he's like, I see the show constantly in my fucking Twitter feed. He's like, so people love super mega awesome ultra guy. He's like, would you come back and do it again? I was like, fuck yes. So you want to talk about streamlined production. Like if you ever watch the show, it looks very fucking expensive, very high tech, beautiful. Shooting it, it was me, Red, who was doing my hair makeup, because my hat, and fucking Evan, who was the director, who was feeding me lines, and the guy like on sound. Smallest fucking set I ever seen in my life. I was like, man, you guys know how to keep it fucking tight. I thought I could keep it tight. You guys are making an entire kid show. There's nobody here. Like, you know, when they show you behind the scenes on Sesame Street, to be fair, there's a lot of puppets and shit, but there's fucking 25, 30 people on the floor, man. These cats are making fucking their kids show. There's like 2 people, a guy with a camera and a guy with a fucking recording sound and shit. So I was on a set. In order to go there, I had to get a COVID test in advance, which I was COVID negative. Then they sent a big box of PPE that you bring with you and shit, masks, fucking face shield, glasses, like fucking drapes, like thermometer, hand gloves, fucking sanitizer. Like Netflix does it right. They're like, if you catch COVID, that's fucking on you. Here's everything. Like, so they spend a lot of money. We're seeing budgets go up now because of COVID spending. It's happening right now as we budget Clerks 3. Having to budget in COVID like instantly brings the budget up and stuff. So Netflix sent the box. I get there to set, you ring the director, he lets you in. First thing they did with me is they put me on the phone with a doctor who was like, I'm the doctor for this shoot. I just want you to know everybody you've come in contact with or come in contact with have been tested. They're all negative. Everyone will be wearing masks and shields, even when you have to take your mask off to act. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. And then we went about production. So, everyone was masked up. At one point, I had to take my mask off in order to be on camera and shit. And then when we were done, we were all leaving and another production was coming in. And they also, probably like us, had, all their tests and shit, I would assume, in order. But some of them were walking around without masks and shit. And at one point we got into it like a chit chat and I was very because they were mask free. And I was like, that's going to be the rest of our lives, probably. Where you're just like, hey man, that's a little close, no? Especially without a mask, man. But it's a lockdown environment for shooting. Liv, who married to Josh, Dr. Josh Roush, Livy Roush working on a flick and she's overseeing the COVID department and shit like that. And she's like, the films are set up into zones. So here's a zone where anybody can be. Zone A. That's where the cars come in, you get your shit checked in, and blah, blah, blah. Then there's zone B, and not everyone from zone A can go into zone B. It gets smaller. The circle gets smaller. And then zone D or whatever the fuck is when you're on set. And that is absolutely essential personnel only. So someone on camera, someone on sound, fucking the actors, bare minimum and shit. It's been real interesting to hear about their process. Yesterday's, though, for me, was just 2 people and stuff. But they go out of their way to make sure that you're not going to get sick on their dime and their time. They're looking out for people. And I'm sure somebody's like, you're a fucking shill for Netflix, but credit where credit's due. These motherfuckers, I know they got all the money in the world, but not everyone's sending out boxes of fucking PPE to make sure you're safe. If they're if you're going to come work for us, we're going to look out for you. I was very impressed by that. But in any event, yeah, fucking it could be weird out there. Where were we? I forgot what we were talking about too. Oh, Joss Whedon.
So yes, basically the upshot of it is that inspired by Ray Fisher, all of these women are doing the work that Ray Fisher hasn't done, which is detailing, here's what happened to me while I was working for this man, and here's why it was bad. Which is always a good thing. The truth is always better than not truth. And understanding the totality of people's experiences is always important for an empathetic society to attempt to go forward. But like we said before, if Ray Fisher's going to keep flying this flag, he's got to actually put some fucking words on it and say, this is what happened to me. Or say, this is why I can't say what happened to me. I'm under NDAs, or I'm legally prohibited from doing, or there's an active investigation and I can't say what, the litany of complaints that I have, or violate it. If it's that important to you to get out, if it's that important for you to sort of keep being at the vanguard of this particular movement, then you kind of shouldn't care that you've got an NDA. You should just want to speak your truth, and not let other people do the work that you do not seem willing to do. That is me. Other people might feel differently. I'm sure Ray feels differently. But seeing how people have taken the slightest crack in the wall as an opportunity to help tell their stories is moving at the least, and hopefully, will cause change at the most.
I'm trying to stay out of it because Moontex X put one of those really sad face smiley sad emojis where they're looking down and they've got a sad face, depressed, not mad, but it just says, let Mark speak.
And it is hard today to be a Buffy fan. It's hard today to be an Angel fan. It's easy to look back at some of the shows and some of those episodes, especially a thing like Dollhouse, and start saying, oh, geez, how do you make a show where this woman is essentially just a prostitute who sells herself out and kind of devalues what makes her herself every time out, every mission she goes on. knowing what we are now beginning to understand about the man who created it. But yes, learning to separate the art from the artist is an important thing to do, especially, growing up in the 70s. I'm sure people growing up in the 50s and the 60s, and the movies that they might have loved were not entirely without trouble, even in the content, and the people who made it. It's an exercise we all have to go through. And I think it's a valuable one to learn, and to learn how to navigate. And so, yeah, you were 100% still entitled to like Buffy. Buffy's a really important show for lots of women who saw it when they were girls, and it inspired them to find their power and to be able to tackle problems in the world. And I 100% get that, and nobody should be able to take that from you. But we just have to be able to reconcile that with maybe the man who did that didn't believe the same things about the women that he was working with.
I did not, just to update some cats who are jumping in, they're asking, did they talk about WandaVision? Oh, yes, we did. That was early on in the show. They're asking, did we mention Gina Carano? Yes, we talked about that as well. And then a lot of people are trying to point out to us, we'll get to that in a minute, that Larry Flint died. This ain't me distancing. I just never fell into the Buffy or Firefly world, because I was, I guess it's unfair to say, like, I was making things at that point, because, like, I've enjoyed plenty of things while I've been a maker of things, but that was just something that didn't, like, I saw Buffy the Vampire Slayer on my birthday in a movie theater the year it came out, if that counts, and I know it doesn't because it's not nearly the same thing. But, I was aware of it. I watched a few episodes when we were about to cast Eliza in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, because she had been in the show and stuff. And then we tried to watch Firefly once, me and Jen, but she wasn't really like into it and stuff. So I didn't get past one episode. So I think he did a fine job with the Avengers, certainly better job than I would have and stuff. And the Age of Ultron as well. Although he seemed to get exhausted by movies based on his interviews, like all the time. It was just like, this is killing me, and this is exhausting me, and this is taking a lot out of me and stuff. And granted, I've never made a movie on the fucking grand scale that he has, so perhaps it does get tiring and stuff. But, like, I'm always sus of anybody that's like, this is hard, man, when it's like, come on. Like, I may not make sausage as fine as yours, but I know how the sausage is made, and this isn't really hard. But I don't really
when you see other people who make movies of that scale doing press who don't seem exhausted by it.
Yeah, he could just be one of those people too that, like, life tires me and stuff. But we've worked with similar people. We've crossed, like, I've worked with Sarah, I've worked with Eliza, Mark Lucas has worked with us a couple times. He was in the Buffy world, I believe. But my crossover with him in my entire 27 years in this business, like, I think I met him or saw him in person once at Comic-Con, and I think we exchanged a tweet before Age of Ultron came out. But I was always well aware of him as a guy who, like me, had a very ardent audience. So I just have, and, cursory familiarity with this stuff. Like, if he was a category on a game show, I might be able to run the category. Like, it depends who my co-contestants are. But if the game show was all about Joss Whedon, I would lose, hands down.
Right. So you'd get to, like, the $400 question. Yeah. But then once you get down from there, it's like,
not even. Basically, I'm like, first question, I'm like, can I phone a friend? And they're like, that's not this show. And I was like, because my man Mark, he loves this shit. I mean, he really loves it. I tell him it might be a downfall if that guy turns out to be a bad guy, Mark. But he said he'll never turn out to be a bad guy. Now, wait a second. I'm sorry. And I ain't making light of the situation at all. We're just having fun on the show with ourselves. But, fucking anybody who's been victimized by somebody, my heart goes out to. But here's my, and I'm not asking for, like, I need proof, but what is everyone saying that he has done? Because it seems very, like, an overall, he's just shitty. Like, it's not like he held me down or something like that. Although, Michelle, and I mean, not even although, there's nothing like that, right?
Most of it is he created a toxic workplace environment and abusive in non-specific ways. The most specific thing that came out was from Michelle Trachtenberg, who played
that. And I've worked with Michelle on Cop Out, lovely girl. Who she said, who I fucking, in her tweet, she was like, now that I'm 36. And I was like, Harriet the Spy is 36? Fuck. But she said, you got the quote there? I don't want to.
I mean, the quote begins with, it must be known as a teenager, he did not have the most appropriate behavior. What he did was very bad, but we win by surviving. And later she said that there was a rule that she and Joss could not be left alone in a room together. Now, if that's a rule that your showrunner and one of your stars cannot be in a room together, there's a reason that rule exists.
And she was a kid, right?
She was, 15, 16, maybe 17 by the time she wrapped off the show, but she was a young person, definitely not of age.
Now, I'm not going to be like, what do you think that means, Mark? But like, it doesn't point to anything positive.
No, it points to more than just he was mean to people on set and cruel to people, behind the scenes.
But generally speaking, that seems to be the predominant like charge, right? Like I keep reading these things and it just reads like, oh, he's just like shitty and an asshole. Like the way there's one article I read this morning, the same guy, that guy, Jose, he said his name. He said that like Whedon delighted in making writers cry. And one time he made a woman writer cry and that made him happy or some such shit.
Yeah.
Chuck LeMaine is asking in chat, did they talk about Gina Carano? Where have you people been? We've been doing the show for like an hour. Yeah, we talked about that shit. Now we're in Whedon world, man. This is the most uncomfortable show we've ever done.
Indeed. And I think a lot of this is about finding context. And his wife, his ex-wife, wrote a letter for IndieWire, I believe, like 3 or 4 years ago, talking about the reasons why they divorced and his conduct. She found herself being sickened at the idea that Joss would be able to stand up in front of a room of women and collect some kind of award or recognition for being a feminist when she knows the man that he was. And she detailed a lot of his behavior inside their marriage, infidelities and sort of cruelties and, what seems to be, on-set affairs with occasional actors or, and it's, once you start adding all of these things together, it begins to be a sort of clear picture, or the picture's getting clearer of a person who abuses power to both make people's lives miserable in sort of toxicity and cruelty, as well as prey on young women who sort of worshipped at the altar of Joss Whedon. And a combination of both of those. So.
Wait a sec. Did they just, oh my God, Jeff's Kiss, excellent name, by the way, in chat, just pointed out 2 hours because I was like, we've been talking this shit for an hour. We've already been doing the show for 2 fucking hours.
Yeah.
I guess it's like the WandaVision part, in which, prior to WandaVision was the Mandalorian part, generally becomes like almost 45 minutes to an hour in and of itself.
Yeah.
We could get away with breaking this fucking 2 shows. Just the fucking WandaVision recaps or whatever the show it is we're watching. And then like just a fucking news show. They're long, man. This show is longer than my dick, which ain't saying nothing because my dick is very, very small. Very, very small.
Yeah. So that's the Whedon stuff. A rep for him did not decline comment to, almost everybody who asked on both Carpenter's allegations and the further ones. But it's, and again, he was asked to leave The Nevers, which HBO will be premiering, I believe, in April, which was the show he spent a year making in London. His name will still be on it in the same way that Andrew Kreisberg's name is still on every episode of The Flash and Supergirl that he worked on, because the Guild requires the Guild to do what it does. But, I don't think they will be selling it as Joss Whedon's The Nevers.
No.
This go round.
The Advent Guard Experience in chat says, you know why Joe Rogan got 100 million on Spotify, lads? Consistency. Well, I don't think it was just consistency that got him all that money. He's also, Joe attracts, huge fucking guests, and yeah, that had more to do. It's not just because he kept doing shows. Like we have been doing this show forever, and nobody gave us any Spotify $100 million and stuff.
We've done a show almost every week during the pandemic.
Yeah,
so that's
Joe's
pretty consistent.
He's not beyond pop culture. He's a cultural phenomenon. Of course, he got fucking $100 million and stuff. But like, we ain't trying to get there. Oh my God. If we were trying to make $100 million, you think we'd be sitting around talking about WandaVision? No, you make $100 million, you go fucking make WandaVision. We're just trying to have a good time. We're just trying not to get old. Fuck.
Indeed. So that is the end of the uncomfortable part of the news.
Amen. Shecky, stop sitting right there. I'm going to keep kicking. All right. So as we say goodbye to the uncomfortable part of the news, kids, look at this cute dog. There you go. Use this as a timeline washer, a wipe of your timeline. Now we can talk about fun things in comics.
Indeed.
All right. What news, Mark?
What more? Well, back in the Pedro Pascal world, he has been cast along with Bella Ramsey for Game of Thrones as the leads of The Last of Us.
Bella Ramsey is Lady Mormont, right?
Yes.
She was so awesome. Remember she got killed by the giant at the end? That was so heartbreaking.
I know. She was the tiniest badass of Game of Thrones, who is now going to be a tiny badass in The Last of Us.
Could have used her in the Senate today, and that's all we'll talk about.
You couldn't let it go, could you?
I mean, it just happened. We just got to put the show in the time span. This ain't political, kids. We're just making jokes and shit. But yes, she was amazing as Lady Mormont. Like a character that I was like, more of this. I'll watch a whole fucking show with a little girl that runs this Bear Island shit. Fucking head. She's got more sense than all these fuckers. But I wasn't aware of her doing anything beyond that show. She must have aged up. They keep showing a picture of her from that show, and she's like fucking 9 or 10. Like, look at this picture. She don't look like that no more, because that was like fucking 4 years ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So she must look. I'm not familiar with this is your thing. You play this game, right? You love this game.
I have, yes.
So that girl that we're looking at in this picture, way too young to be in the girl in your game, right?
The girl in the game is 14 years old, and it seems as if that picture is the picture of like an 11-year-old person.
Right. So she's probably aged up.
Yeah, and you could probably do a little bit of between makeup and lighting, age her down.
Harvester Sorrow says 36 now.
Jesus.
What do you think, as somebody who played the game and loved the game? Do you approve of this casting? Is this something you're into?
I'm totally into it. I'm here for Pedro Pascal. I'm here for Bella Ramsey. I'm here for Last of Us.
Fucking can't not work, man. That guy just like
that dude. I mean, he must
what
have.
Did it do? He's great. Like he's, it's like all the great actors. There's a reason they hire fuckers over and over again. And like he's getting hired for shit where he doesn't even have to prove himself at a box office. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So like it's at the end of the day, he's just getting work because he's fucking good. He's versatile, charming as fuck and whatnot. I've loved him since, Game of Thrones, of course, but fuck him and Narcos, man.
Yeah, there's very much like a young, at this point now not so young, but Burt Reynolds vibe to him.
Yeah,
where like he's a tough guy, clearly, like he's a physical actor, clearly, but there's some charm and there's a wink in his eye and a sparkle in the way he does stuff, and it's a thing that we have been missing for a while. Is just that it's young Harrison Ford was that thing, and we don't have a ton of that. And so to watch this guy, kind of start to sweep up these plum roles that are asking for that kind of character is fun to watch.
Dale M in chat says the little Lady Mormont girl is in the Golden Compass.
Not for much though.
Not so much. Do you watch that?
I did.
Why'd you stop?
I've watched everything that they've put out so far. I can't say that I'm a fan, but I'm kind of dazzled by how expensive it is. It's literally just watching people spend money at a grand scale. Parts of it are kind of fun, parts of it are interesting. Maybe if I read the books, it would mean a lot more to me. But, as a person who attempts to want to make stuff that feels like that, it's always instructive to watch it.
Dead Jester in chat says she's 18 now, by the way.
Fair.
So the Lady Mormont girl is almost the Lady Mormont lady.
Mm.
That makes sense. They always cast like 18-year-olds to play fucking teenagers and shit.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it makes the most sense because now they don't have to. They can work her like an adult and not as a child if she's going to be the second lead to this show.
I'm the director and I should be thinking like that. And yet you're the smart one in the group where you're like, legally they could work her like an adult, Kev. I'm like, oh yeah, you're absolutely right. All right, what else we got?
The CW has ordered, they're going heavy on genre, ordering a bunch of new pilots for the Powerpuff Girls show.
Live action
Coming from
I remember we talked about this, and at first I was like, what the fuck? But then I was like, could work. So they haven't shot a pilot. They're just moving forward, shooting a pilot.
Correct.
So they'll be casting.
Yes, totally be casting. A show called Naomi, which I think we also talked about, based on a comic book from Brian Michael Bendis and David Walker.
Oh, it's Marvel. Isn't that a Marvel character?
No, it's DC. It's a DC book.
That's right. She's a human character in a world of the Marvel characters. Of the DC characters, sorry. She's non-metahuman in a world of metahumans?
Yes, I believe. The show will follow a teenage girl who sets out to discover the origins of a supernatural event in her hometown. Ava DuVernay is producing and probably directing the pilot, along with Arrow veteran Jill Blankenship. And that is coming from, it is not a Berlanti jam, which, it's always hard to find a non-Berlanti show on the CW.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. What the hell going on?
Yeah, and they
Melissa Benoist, she just signed a big deal with WB. So, even though she's wrapping up Supergirl.
Yes, next phase in her career, which will involve her making her own stuff, which is super smart.
She's a wonderful actress, man. Like she made that, pun intended, she made that Supergirl show fly. Like your lead is so fucking charming, like because it's a goofy ass concept, as we all know, but she really humanized that character. She's so wonderful.
Yeah. And then they're also doing a reboot of the 4400. Did you ever watch the 4400 back in the day?
Isn't that like people disappear and then they come back?
Yes. There was ultimately it wasn't a blip exactly, in that over the course of time, people had just disappeared. From the 10s and the 20s and the 1860s to the 1980s, and then one day all 4,400 of them returned back to the world. Some of which you have crazy awesome magic powers and shit. So yeah, it had been a show on USA, I think it was, back in the day, and now they're rebooting it, and it's a smart idea. And by back in the day, I mean 2004 or 2007. So it's not like some. It's not an ancient show. It's not The Fugitive, but I'm excited to see it. Look, I love the idea. I like it was a smart show, and we'll see what they do with the new version of it.
Who's involved?
That is coming from blah 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 CBS Studios, working with the CW. But
I remember watching that. I had it on DVD. They were able to fit their entire first season onto a 2-disc set or something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's that there. We had talked a while ago, I think, 6 months, maybe a year.
Charles Huffman on chat says Naomi does have superpowers. People thought she was a Kryptonian like Superman. So apparently she's going to have powers. But also somebody mentioned in chat, a show CW is not making is Wonder Girl. Did you see that?
Yeah, they passed on it.
Yeah, what's that all about? That seemed like an absolute no-brainer.
It's unclear. It's always hard to try and Kremlinize and get inside the minds of the reasons why they pick a thing up or not. And it's never as simple as, well, the script that they wrote wasn't good enough, or they couldn't find the right person to cast. There's any number of reasons why the math didn't work out in its favor. But it is unfortunate that we're not going to get that show, because I think that was an interesting take on that superhero genre.
Let's talk about the show we are going to fucking get. They've been dropping these mini trailers for the big trailer, apparently, that's debuting tomorrow, of the Snyder Cut. Justice League, the Snyder Cut. And tonight we got our first look at what looks like the Bat Tank from Dark Knight Returns, with Batman standing on top of it. Pretty. I didn't think I was going to see that in a live action adaptation until they did the Dark Knight Returns. But man, oh man, like, didn't he say there was only fucking a few minutes of new footage?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was something like 10 or 15 minutes of new.
I don't even think
photography was done.
I don't even think it's that high, if I remember correctly. For some reason, I thought it was like under 10 minutes. So it feels like with the new footage, like he got to fill in the cracks and tell the rest of his story. But it also sounded like he was like, watch this fucking fan service. It was just like, I got the Joker. I only need him for a few seconds. I got the Bat Tank. We only need it for a few seconds. Very fucking smart, man, because, there's including little elements like that, as we well know, will completely satisfy a large cross-section of the audience who's coming out for that. That's exactly what they're hoping for. They're hoping to see more cool fucking shit. Zach's vision of cool shit, or Zach's, DC put through Zach's fucking filter. So as long as he packs it with some shit like that, it's going to be incredibly satisfying.
And it's also hard to tell, if it is just 10 to 15 minutes or even less of new footage, if that's literally just actors on a stage, because that shot of Batman on the Bat Tank could be 100% CG.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't work on it. I'm not saying I know for a fact, but I looked at it and I was like, this is fully created, because unless it was shot the first time around, like, we know that Ben Affleck didn't go back for reshoots. Mm-hmm. So, now you don't need Ben Affleck to go back to be Batman. You just need a guy in a Batman suit, particularly for a shot like that where you're way high overhead and shit. But, I think it might be tied into the Joker part of the movie.
Yeah. I mean, the more that they show, the more curious I am to just see, like, okay, what is this? What's in this? How much is it going to differ from the thing that we saw before? And is that difference going to be, a market change on the experience of seeing it, aside from just being longer?
And DLS Music wrote, at least the Snyder Cut will take the Whedon out of Justice League. Boy, talk about a reversal of fortune, right? Like, one, fucking, here's Zach and Josh, and on as vis-a-vis Justice League. And then it went, here's Zach and here's Josh, vis-a-vis Justice League. And now it went, here's Zach and here's Josh, vis-a-vis Justice League and everything else. Like, in a very short span of time. When did this Justice League picture come out? It was only like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, it was like 2016. I'm
not like, this ain't like fuck everybody else, but I'm so happy for like Zach. Like, good for him, man. Like, I hope he's doing it right. He's milking it for every fucking drop it's worth. And he's doing it all right before fucking he drops that zombie thing on Netflix, which is going to fucking crush, absolutely crush. So he's getting all his propers that he never got first time around when, he had to pull out of the project and shit. Mm-hmm. So I don't know him at all other than having met him a few times, but I got to imagine he's like feeling good about shit right now. Like, I don't know if it's just on my Twitter algorithm or if it's on like everybody's trending, but like, he trends almost every day with something about Justice League, releasing an image of the Joker or releasing this and now his trailer tomorrow. He's, it reminds me of, and I'm just going to help us segue, the scene in The People versus Larry Flint, when he has all the networks at once, like, are shooting his story and his house, and he's in his wheelchair and he starts spinning around in circles because he's like, like he's in total control of everything. That's what I feel like Zack Snyder's got right now. Like, that kind of clout, credibility, man, of like, I got a thing that a lot of people want to see and it's going to rock their fucking world. Like, I don't even think if it was like terrible, like really terrible, abjectly terrible, worse than Joss Whedon's, that people are going to be able to differentiate that because there will be so much, I don't know, at least it'll be in theme with a whole, you know what I'm saying? Tonally, it will feel like it's supposed to be there. I'm happy for him. He's got to be like, this has got to be satisfying for him as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, to get this like last bite at the apple and really fucking rectify things and turn it into a bigger deal now than when it was when it opened. It's kind of, that's a magic trick, man.
For sure.
Take my hat off. So we get a new trailer for it tomorrow. We talked about like maybe doing this show tomorrow so we could cover it, but we'll just cover it next week. And besides, we can never show it anyway. We get thrown on fucking YouTube. But seeing the image of the bat tank is like fucking, oh, it's pretty dope, man. Pretty dope. It don't have to make sense. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to be like, hey, it don't make sense. If it don't make sense, like, I'm just happy to see the visual, man. He's very splash page oriented, and he paints a wonderful splash page. And, you know, in a world where I can pause this show and walk away and take a shit and go get food and come back, that running time ain't going to bother me in the least, man.
I am curious to say the least.
What else we got?
We had talked a while back about Paramount wanting to remake Face Off, which seemed like a fool's errand. But they're...
Why?
I don't really know, but they're doing it. And so now they brought on director Adam Wingard, who will release Godzilla vs. Kong shortly.
Hank Hills tried to correct me and say Affleck did come back for additional photography last October, and the theatrical cut dropped in 2017. I read everywhere that Affleck did not go back for additional photography. So, I mean, and I don't know that personally. It's not like he told me or some such shit, but I read on the internet that he did not go back. So I don't know where you're getting your information, but now that doesn't mean new Batman stuff wasn't shot. Like we say, it's a guy in a fucking mask, so you can get away with it. But the way I understand it, he did not go back. I know Henry Cavill said he did not go back. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
Jay Scott for real said the 2017 part is correct, though. Yeah, he went back for the Whedon reshoots. We all know that. Really blaming Joss for JL? So just all got amnesia for BVS? Okay. Nobody's blaming. Well, I mean, nobody's blaming. What the fuck does that mean? Like I don't even know how to explain that fucking thing. Like, are you saying that like this will be bad because it's Zack and Batman versus Superman was Zack and you didn't like it or something? But these two things have nothing to do with the other. But nobody was blaming fucking Joss, but we did all see the Justice League movie, and you know, it does kind of speak for itself. At least now we get to see another Justice League movie, practically for free, at least if you have HBO Max. So I don't know. Kev, stop reading comments. I just read yours. So what do you want from me? Should I do what you told me or not? Face Off.
Yes, we're getting another one.
Don't do it. Or if you do it, do an in-universe sequel and include both Travolta and Nick Cage again. You know, you want to do like, they got kids now and those kids are swapping faces. Fine.
It's not you, Sean Archer. It's your kids.
But don't whole cloth remake it. Remember when they whole cloth remade RoboCop and they whole cloth remade what was the fucking Schwarzenegger movie? Total Recall? Like, just don't do that. Do in-universe sequels. Continue the story. People like that.
Yeah, or don't do it. Just let it be.
But if you do it, you got to give it that bought and think feeling. You know that feeling I'm talking about?
Yeah. So Adam Wingard, who made Your Next and Godzilla vs. Kong, is going to try and remake Face Off. You know, I wish him luck, but
he's talented. He makes good movies. Those are good flicks.
Good movies, you know, but it's the idea is not what made that movie work. It was entirely based on execution. So
you need two incredible performers.
Yeah. And you need
two of the most magnetic, electric, scene-eating motherfuckers in the business, man, because that's what kept that movie alive. It's a silly-ass concept. I mean, I guess no sillier than the Marvel movies, but, you know, it was those two dudes who made that movie so fucking fun and watchable.
Yeah. And John Woo, who knows how to direct, like, weird operatic pulp like few people do. So
that's true. There's a guy who knows how to chuck a dove or a pigeon into a shot, I'll tell you what.
Fly.
Oh, my God. Nightshade Holloway goes a little fruity, but I guess I know what he's doing. That's a Barton Fink line.
All right. One last bit before I guess we have to eulogize another person, which seems to be de rigueur. Our friend David Desmalchin is hosting Fangoria's Chainsaw Awards.
Oh, fucking number one. I love Dave Desmalchin. Not just for his talents and stuff. You know him from the Ant-Man movies. He's the Baba Yaga, or in fucking Dark Knight. You know, fucking he was the one that Harvey Dent was gonna fucking shoot Joker's sidekick and shit. You know, fucking Dave Desmalchin. He's everything. He's coming up in Suicide Squad.
Yes.
He was in Jay and Silent Bob reboot with us for a scene in the beginning. He is such a wonderful actor. Everyone loves him. They cast him in everything and stuff. But he's such a good guy.
Yes.
Like such a good guy with a good heart, family man, loves his fucking kids and his wife. Such a sweet fucking dude, man. So I'm glad he's a perfect guy to host Fangoria fucking awards. I mean, he's got that Count Crowley book, which is right in the fucking same wheelhouse and stuff. Yeah, I love Desmalchin. He's so awesome. Good for him, man.
So it makes me happy for him. It makes me happy that Fango is enough of a resurgent brand to have its own awards.
Right? Fangoria, folks, is a big part of our childhood. And a lot of people might be like, I know what it is. But those of you who grew up with the internet, like before that, those of us who grew up in the 70s and the 80s, we didn't have an internet. We didn't get to like go fuck around and shit. And so if you wanted to talk geek or genre stuff, you had Starlog or Starburst over in the UK. And if you wanted to talk horror stuff, you had to pick up a copy of Fangoria. And you wanted to pick up a copy of Fangoria, but sometimes your parents wouldn't let you because the covers were so fucking horrifying and shit like that. But, you know, it ain't like Famous Monsters of Filmland, which was an amazing monsters magazine that had been around forever and stuff like that, by Forrest Ackerman. I think he was the guy that did it. Fangoria was just like fucking US News and World Report for gory horror movies. At a time when we couldn't get our hands on shit like that just anywhere. And here was this glorious fucking magazine that like talked about all the things that you loved and shit. Like it was the internet before the internet existed. So it is nice to see the brand resurging. And it's a brand now, like remember back in the day, you know, it might be what would be considered what's the word I'm searching for? I smoked it away. Like not underground, but just
it was niche.
Yeah, and just also like you wouldn't fucking, bring that around your grandmother. But now we live in a world where like the internet, you can watch living human beings being killed. Like, and it will scar you for life, according to Jason Mewes. Like he was like, I watched somebody get beheaded and I'll never be the same again and shit. So in that world, like Fangoria, like we've seen true horrors. So the idea of like, look at this fucking fake rubber bloody head, isn't as fucking like, oh my God, Bracing, get the fuck out of here. You're going to ruin the children, as it was back in the 80s. It could be more of a family friendly brand at this point, oddly enough. Like horror is far more accepted now than it was when we were kids in the 80s. And back then it was a lot of like slasher films and stuff like that. But now horror goes to places like Jordan Peele, goes to places like Parasite, fucking like it's such a wide ranging field that Fangoria's time, like it seems like it may have come back. I'm very happy for him.
Yeah. And Fango was also this Bible for would-be filmmakers, because it was one of the few magazines that was showing a lot of behind the scenes, how you did this. And so you get these interviews with Rob Bottin talking about how he made The Thing and the all of that, the crazy wolf, Spiderhead shit. Sam Raimi would be in there. Stan Winston would be in there. Rick Baker was all over those pages. And it was very much how do you make a film like this for next to no money? Because every horror movie you love was made for next to nothing. And it became this sort of, a bone of pride, I think, for a lot of these filmmakers to be in Fango. And as a reader, it was, this is how you do it. Like Cinefantastique would be the sort of like other sort of
the high end.
That was
like
high end.
The Neiman Marcus version of the fucking.
It's like a widescreen magazine. So it would have lots of these like 30-page stories about how we made the this in Dune or how we made the chestburster in Alien. But, Fango was, they were of the same mind, but they used like different fonts to help tell you those stories about making the movies you loved if you were a genre fan.
2 iterations ago, because I think this current iteration of Fangoria is completely different. It was owned for a minute by some Texas people and shit went south and it went away or something. I think there was a story about that last year. But before that company had it, right before I think they went out of business as a print magazine for the first time, they did like me and Red State and Tusk on the cover. And for a Fango kid, grew up reading that magazine, it was fucking everything. Like I didn't make Tusk without thinking like, oh my God, if this was the 80s, he would totally be on the fucking cover of Fangoria. So to have them, as artistic rendering of me and all my horror characters was a real high watermark for me in my career.
Yeah, it's funny. Like whenever I go on meetings, general meetings in Hollywood, a lot of that meeting is you tell your own story. You get about 30 to 40 minutes out of an hour to tell who you are, where you came from, what you like, and so on and so on. And then the next 20 minutes or whatever the business of the meeting is. And depending on the meeting, I will mention that I was an editor at Fangoria for like 4 years. And you can see the eyes light up for the people who know. It's like, oh shit, Fango? For real? You worked for Fango? It's like, yeah, man, I totally did. Let me tell you some stories. It's always odd, but lovely to discover those people for whom that means something.
Starlog, Fango, and remember Comic Scene?
Mm-hmm.
There was somebody pointed, old school Shinobi said Fangoria and Starlog Company also put out Comic Scene. Comic Scene was like proto Wizard, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I think they sort of existed at the same time, but did not have the cachet of Wizard at all. But yeah, I worked for all 3 of those.
Yes. Somebody wrote something. Oh, Hilo wrote, I would love to see you guys' reaction to Sam Raimi's original Green Goblin design. It'll scare you and your children. Did you see online the moving face version of the Green Goblin?
I did, like a while back, right?
It was like a test footage thing, and then they decided to do what they did. And, no arguments. The movie made fucking a bunch of money, but that test version was fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, it looked great. But I still maintain you could have just slapped green paint on his face, give him a few prosthetics, and fucking Willem Dafoe, when he's in the mirror in that movie and he just puts on that rictus grin, it's like, you don't need special effects. This guy's a natural, man. All right, that's all the news we got?
That's all the news, unless you want to hit Larry Flint.
Larry Flint died, kids. That's important to us because freedom of speech was something that he fought for when he was above ground. That and naked ladies, he fought for that quite a bit, I guess. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite movies of all time is People vs. Larry Flint. Such a Milos Forman's flick is so wonderful, so powerful, and such a bizarre love story. I did meet Larry Flint once back when Larry Flint Publications published Film Threat magazine back in the day. And so I went to speak to Malcolm. My friend Malcolm was working there at the time. Mm-hmm. And he brought me in to say hi to meet Chris Gore, who was the editor of Film Threat. And it was in the Larry Flint building. And so as we were going through, they're like, you want to meet Larry? I said, sure. And he was in his office. And they're like, this is Larry Flint. He was like, thank you, Alan. That's what he didn't say that. That's what fucking Woody Harrelson says in the movie when he gets called by the lawyer at the end. And he goes, you won the Supreme Court case. Spoilers. Goes, thank you, Alan. Such a good movie. I might go watch that tonight now. Strip for me, baby. You got any Larry Flint memories?
I don't really, aside from, I always got the feeling that if you had to get caught with pornography, Hustler would have brought you the biggest punishment.
Hold
Like,
on one second. I got it now. Hank Hills is on our chat is going, yeah, Ben Affleck shot a scene with Jared Leto as the Joker for Zack Snyder's additional photography of the Snyder Cut. That is not true. That's not true. Again, I don't know this because I know Ben. I haven't spoken to Ben in months, but the way I understand it, and if you look at that Joker shot, there's Joker, sure, and that's Jared Leto, but there's a guy in a Batman costume. That don't mean it's your guy. And again, I ain't putting water out on this because I know anything, but like everything I read online said that Ben did not go back and do reshoots for the Snyder Cut. Be careful what you read, kids, what you believe. I mean, shit, it ain't good enough that fucking Zack Snyder gave us Granny Goodness. Did you see that fucking photo of Darkseid, Desaad, and Granny Goodness? Granny Goodness made me fucking smile so wide. I was like, that'll be the first cinematic representation of Granny Goodness. Not the last, because Ava DuVernay is working on the New Gods, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's all the news, right? Give it
That's
up for
all the
Mark.
news.
He gave us all that fucking news, kids. All that
News.
sweet, sweet news. Okay. What, JC, we need you. We need you.
Where are you, babe?
Stop interpreting Mark, Kev, says Gan Savvy. When did I interpret Mark?
Oh, spelling.
I think JC abandoned us, man.
No, I'm
Did you
here.
see?
I am watching this fucking show no more. It's too long. He's like, it's 3 fucking hours of my life. I got a baby. Would you get this wrapped up? JC's got to get back to his fucking life, kids. So
I'm
bring
here. I
J-
just have my here. Let me do this one. So now you can see my like BTS camera.
Oh, look at that shit.
Yeah.
Look at it.
Will everyone see that, or is it just
No,
us?
just you. Everybody
Aw.
sees my like I'm
Your cityscape?
yeah I'm green screened over the city.
Yes.
He showed us backstage, kids, and it was fucking alarming. He ain't wearing pants. He's fucking nipple rubbing. He's crazy. All right, we got some questions, JC.
We do. I wanted to point out Aquila JM said they'd like to see Face Off with Jessica Chastain and Bryce Dallas Howard because it wouldn't need any special effects.
Say that again.
The Face Off reboot should cast Jessica Chastain and Bryce Dallas Howard because it wouldn't need special effects.
That's actually pretty good, man. Good observation. What's
And,
the other one? Isn't it like Isla Fisher and somebody else? People are always going like, or Amy Adams and somebody else.
Isla Fisher, maybe.
Is it Amy Adams and Isla Fisher? They're always like confusing.
During Star Wars Episode 1, Keira Knightley and Natalie Portman were constantly confused.
You're absolutely right. I remember that as well. Yeah, that's a cheap version to do Face Off.
And then Darth Spooky has said, somebody save Mr. Smith from the chat. This isn't a happy place. This is a cursed place.
It's not a cursed place. And the chat is like, I find the chat to be a useful part of this version of the show. They make up for the audience version of the show that we used to do, where we could have instant feedback with folks in the room and stuff. And the chat is also partly responsible for like the direction in which we go and the stuff we talk about. So, for everybody that's like, stop reading chat, I'm like, no, like, what do you think? I want to do the show in a bubble? I want to know what you're thinking. And I'd like to know what you're thinking in real time, not like after the show.
Somebody tweeted at me after last week's show, like, why don't you just record the show and then post it later? I was like, one, because I don't have hours and hours to edit the show. And two, we're used to doing it in front of people. The chat's what brings the energy.
And also, we are recording it and we post it later.
It's true. We're doing all those things that everyone's asking about. Did you see the Stan Lee book came out by Abraham Reisman?
I did. Have you read it?
I got it. He sent me a copy of the book because I talked to him for the book and stuff. But he gave me a heads up in advance. He's going like, I just want you to know that it's not like all glorious and stuff. He's going, I took a real level. He's like, I'm not a fan, but I'm not a non-fan. He's going, so I just went in as a journalist. But you know, he got me ready for a book that I was like, oh my God, does it say that, you know, he was involved with the nefarious thing? And no, like at the end of the day, it's just kind of more of the, you know, he took more credit than he probably deserved, you know, that. And then when you get into later in his life with the Peter Paul and Stan Lee media, like, then Peter Paul went to jail. Apparently there was some savings and loan scandal there or something like that. But you know, relatively his hands are like relatively clean. There's nothing in the book that I was like, oh my God, this I had no idea. Sad thing though is they got the recordings of him and JC fighting, and I've heard those recordings like years ago, and they're fucking harrowing to listen to. Number one, you get to hear Stan curse, but it ain't in a fun way like that short where we, you know, watched him, cartoon short where he curses. Like he's like cursing about her, and it's really fucking heartbreaking and stuff. But you know, Abraham's a really good journalist, so it's not like a hit and run job by any stretch of the imagination, but it's, you know, definitely a warts and all story. Right. And if, you know, you take anything from it, at the end of the day, Abraham said, I just read a piece. He was like, you know, there are no such thing as superheroes. Like, you know, this guy that he, like his heroes, he had feet of clay to some degree or something like that.
I just want to point out, when you say JC, it's not me, JC. It's Stan Lee's daughter.
Yeah, our guy JC that had the temerity to fucking scream in a legend. No, it's Stan Lee's daughter, JC. And like there are tapes that somebody gave to Abraham, so I guess they're transcribed in the book, of one of their screaming matches. And I'd heard it years ago, like Max played it for me once. And it was like, you know, really is heartbreaking. Really heartbreaking, because you don't want to like feel that way about anybody, let alone somebody who's your own family, blood and stuff. And you could hear a man who had dealt with this for 60, 70 years or something. Like this was nothing new. So yeah, that's there. It's a, you know, if you want to know about Stan Lee and the history of Stan Lee, and if you're watching this show, of course, you got some interest in this medium. The book is out there, and it's a kind of warts and all book, but it's also not an unfair portrayal. I didn't think, like, it didn't read to me as like a hatchet job by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, at the end of the day, when you finish the book, I guess the idea is that, you know, Stan Lee was as human as the rest of us. Thankfully, there's no like fucking untoward sex stuff or something like that.
Right.
But it's always like comes down to the allegations of people going like, he didn't write this stuff. But it's like, you have to understand what that, or not, I'm not saying I do and you don't, but you know, they had to break it down, right? Somebody had to be a writer, somebody had to be an artist. And, you know, Jack Kirby was both, because him and Stan would be like, you know, have a pre-conversation, Marvel method, be like, oh, the story could be this, and I want to have this happen and this. And then Jack went off and did whatever he wanted, drew literally whatever he wanted. That makes you a writer as well. So in a fair and just world, it would have said written by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, art by Jack Kirby. But because the comic business wasn't worked that way or set up that way, it said writer Stan Lee, artist Jack Kirby. And, you know, he apparently, you know, was, it's based on what I read, just very good at selling himself, like way better at selling himself than Steve Ditko was or Jack Kirby was. Stan was a fantastic fucking salesman. And as many people have said, his greatest creation wasn't fucking Spider-Man or Iron Man. Stan Lee's greatest creation was fucking Stan Lee. He created the persona of Stan Lee. So I still have not read anything that has like turned me off to him and made me go like, oh, Stan, you broke my heart. I've never, you know, I only knew him for the last 20 years of his life, 25 years of his life. But anytime you ever talked about those characters, like Stan created Spider-Man, he would so quickly shut you down and be like, co-created. That was me and Steve Ditko. As long as I knew him, he was always telling you who was responsible along with him. He was not hogging the credit. I never met Bob Kane, but I understand Bob Kane made you like people to believe that he did it fucking all. Like that's why we didn't know about Well, a lot of people didn't know about Bill Finger until a few years ago and shit. Stan, as long as I knew him, was not that guy. He did not like, oh, I fucking lit all this shit on fire. It was me. You know, he was very quick to be like, that was Jack, that was Steve, that was this one, that was that one. So, but you know, if you're interested in the life of Stan Lee, it's a book definitely worth reading because Abraham is a very good writer. And, you know, it's more info about Stan than you've ever known. You can find out about his family, how he came up and stuff like that. And he was an ambitious dude. The really sad thing about Stan's life to me always was he was still waiting to write the great American novel. Like he was like, you know, this is just comic books. He didn't understand until the last, like, say 25 years that, like, you know, no, that's the shit that's it. That's your massive legacy. Never mind the great American novel. You wrote the great American comic book, you know, and it's never ending. You wrote an American mythology. So take a bow. And, you know, it sounds like he was, you know, hungry for recognition, maybe a little fame hungry. And he didn't realize that the thing that was going to make him most famous was the thing that he was working on most of his life and, you know, kind of looked down at. He only signed Stan Lee because he didn't want people to know that he worked in comics, and he wanted to save his name, Stanley Lieber, for his book. You know, how ironic. So it's a book worth getting, kids, if you're into the subject of Stan Lee. All right, JC, what do we got?
Okay, Bo H. If the guys could remake a John Hughes movie casting from X-Men characters, which movie would you remake, and who would play each role? So not X-Men actors, but the actual X-Men. Who would you cast in a John Hughes movie?
Doing Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and Ferris is Professor X, because that dude never gets a day off. Or wait, do I really want to do a Professor X movie? Who deserves a day off? Oh, it's got to be Marvel characters? Because I was like, Batman really deserves a day off.
X-Men specifically.
Well, didn't they do that Wolverine story where he goes and gets drunk for a day or some such shit? So you can't do Wolverine.
Yes,
I guess I'm sticking with Professor X. He's a dude who's always on the fucking job. And, you know, maybe he just wants to fuck around in his dad's car or whatever fuck, go to the circuit, the parade. Maybe he wants to pretend to be the Sausage King of Chicago or something like that. So it's him. Who's his Cameron? Well, in the Logan movie, who was it? What was the guy that the British dude played from The Office? Didn't he play, remember in Logan, the guy who was looking after
Stephen Merchant. Caliban.
So I guess that's kind of his Cameron right there. And I guess Logan is Sloane. Shit, they already made the movie. They already made Ferris Bueller's Day Off with mutant characters, and it was called fucking Logan.
I just want to go to Vegas, Logan.
What do you got?
I want to do Weird Science.
Good call.
With Cyclops as Gary. And
Gary, our boy.
Our boy Gary.
What the hell you're talking about?
Colossus as Wyatt. And Jean Grey as the girl, as Lisa.
More Jean Grey? Fuck, man. We've seen enough Jean Grey for the last 20 years. It's all Wanda time right now.
But you know, Scarlet Witch wasn't an X-Man, but she'd also be perfect.
Look at that. Look at that. Fucking there's a guy who knows deep cuts.
He's like, some shit.
Man, you piece of shit. All right. Fucking we did it. We did that one. Not our best answers, but we got through it. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. You threw us a curve there. Hopefully you enjoyed it. That was meant to be more amusing than informative. JC, the next point.
Dino C wants to know, since Mephisto can look like anyone, who would you retcon Mephisto as in one of the previous MCU movies? So in all the MCU movies, how would you start Mephisto movies before?
How would I?
Well, what characters? So, at the end of we found out that Sam Jackson was actually a Skrull. How would you play Mephisto the same way?
Hiding him in plain sight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Sam seems like the obvious choice because he's been in every one of the movies and stuff. And, morally, he's been in gray or areas or something. Who else has been there from the beginning? Pepper. That Pepper fucking Potts. If she ain't evil, I don't know who is with her vagina candles and whatnot. Who else can one do? You got to have somebody that's been around a long time. And oddly enough, Pepper has been there from the beginning, but not Pepper. Coulson. Coulson's been around for a long time, and he came back from the fucking dead. Only a devil could do shit like that. Yeah, man. Wouldn't it be great if it was Phil Coulson and shit? Because the devil should be like, sometimes they play him like, oh, hello, I'll eat your pussy. But sometimes, sometimes he's just like, hi, how you doing? Can I help you? Like just a helpful guy next door. Phil Coulson would be my way into Mephisto.
Just, hello, can I eat your pussy? I don't know why that tickled me. I go Thunderbolt Ross.
Oh God, that's great. That is fucking great, man. Excellent poll. He's been around since the beginning too.
He's been around since the jump, and he's always been an antagonist. He's never been like on the side of really anybody except himself. And he's always kind of manipulated events towards conflict.
In chat, they're suggesting Stan. Stan has been all the Mephisto. That's a great fucking idea. In a way to keep Stan alive in the movies, because they said we're not, doing them. We're not doing CG versions of them or something. If all of those fucking moments was Mephisto.
Except they did do a CG version of him. They did him for Guardians 2. It's like young Stan and Joni in the car, right?
No, that wasn't Guardians. That was Endgame. And he was still around. He was still, he had shot that before he died.
No, gotcha.
But they younged him up. It's him in the car, but they just younged him up. But Kevin Feige said they're not going to try to keep that going now that he's passed and stuff. But yeah. Yeah, that Stan is an interesting way in. I like yours though, Thunderbolt Ross, man, because he's such a prick. And it'd be nice to have him playing the devil. Bill Hurt, he's good.
Oh, yeah.
What about Justin Hammer?
I fucking love Justin Hammer. Don't make him be the devil, because I would just like to see more Justin Hammer. With their Iron Wars coming up, I'm really hoping they bring him back. Like, he was so fucking electric. Remember when he fucking danced out onto the stage and shit?
There are whole montages of
one of my favorite moments in a Marvel movie is him going like, is this a bird in Russia? Or remember when he's like, oh, you like that bird? Take his bird. The guy grabs his bird. He's like,
you work for me now.
I got your bird. What are you gonna do? Trying to be so hard. All right, what's our next question? Our final question.
Dare to Tread says.
Oh, hold on. Sean Cisco said the Ancient One could be Mephisto, which is true. She was or the Ancient One was pulling energy from the dark dimension. But I don't. That one, that character wasn't in enough movies, I think, to be considered.
Yeah, only 2.
Yeah. All right, back to you.
Okay, Dare to Tread wants to know which. Let's see. How can I read this so it makes sense? Who do you think from the Marvel universe would be best suited to be in the DC universe and vice versa? So, like, what Marvel character would seamlessly fit into DC, and what DC character would seamlessly fit into Marvel? So like my vote would be, I think Lobo would make a great Marvel character.
Good call. I buy that. Legion of Superheroes feel like they can easily work in Marvel world. Off the top of my head. Let me think. Who goes from Marvel over to DC though?
I feel like the Watcher could go from Marvel to DC. That kind of, big cosmic, kind of all seeing, all knowing.
Yeah, totally. But in terms of a classic superhero, it's so interesting. What a great question, because it makes you think like, wow, you can't really cross-pollinate these fuckers. Like, there's a very distinct taste to DC. It's Coke and Pepsi, right? Like they do a very specific flavor of superheroes over here, and these cats do a very specific flavor over there. Maybe it's more like root beer and orange soda, but yeah, it's tough. What a great question. I've never really thought about that. Who from Marvel could comfortably be in DC? I mean, I guess like Hawkeye, because you got a guy with an arrow running around in fucking DC as well, bow and arrow. Yeah. He's the one I think could slide easiest into DC continuity. You can make him a bad guy for Green Arrow or a buddy or something, but at the end of the day, it's just a guy with a fucking quiver full of arrows, and we already got one of those. So that's the easiest transition. Maybe not the sexiest, but it took me a long time to get to Hawkeye, because as I was running through characters, I'm like, no. I mean, honestly, Spider-Man would work very well in a Superman universe, particularly the young Peter Parker Spider-Man. But he's so iconic to Marvel, it's just, tough to pull him out of there. I can't see Spider-Man being friends with Batman, the way that Spider-Man can be friends with Iron Man and Thor and Daredevil or something like that.
I think Thor could cross over. I think Thor in the sort of Wonder Woman mythological bent, like I think that could make some sense.
You're Jeff's kiss. You're absolutely right. Thor can fully play in fucking Wonder Woman world and not feel weird at all. Yeah, that's a good poll as well. What a great question, though.
Yeah, I think Zatanna could go either way.
Whoa.
Yeah, hey now. But, there's always room for magic users. There's always room for, people in fishnets in both of these universes. Amanda Waller could 100% be a Marvel Universe sort of bad guy, if you need a bad guy, just weird gray area operator, shield boss.
Someone said Dr. Doom. Jay Batista. I just feel he's very Marvel to me. Somebody said Punisher. You think Punisher? Not in DC.
No. Yeah, DC,
they don't occur to me as the killing company.
Yeah.
Now you got Batman who never kills in the comics, Superman who never kills, Wonder Woman who never kills, Aquaman who, well, didn't he once kill Black Manta after Black Manta killed his son?
Yeah, and Wonder Woman did kill Max Lord, I think.
That's right. Rarely do they kill.
Yeah.
A lot of people saying Dr. Fate. Yeah, I guess you're right. Dr. Fate could slide into, Mark kind of covered it with the magic characters. I think could slide back and forth.
Yeah.
Somebody said Batman Punisher, like crossover. Batman would want to stop the Punisher.
Yeah. I mean, the Punisher could be in the DC universe as a bad guy. Like the Punisher becomes like Deadshot or like Deathstroke, but not as a hero. It's hard to make that work in the DC universe.
What a good question. That was a brain burner.
I know.
Like real life we needed PhDs to be able to answer that. Good thing we've got that kind of experience, me and Mark. We've been talking about this shit since we were children in the 70s, kids. Ain't a fucking thing you could think of we ain't already thought of first. No, I didn't think of that one. That was really good, man. Somebody said Killer Croc is a Spider-Man villain. Gambit Greedy said that. That's a really good suggestion.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Joker could be a Daredevil villain.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, he could, like if you got enough money, but it doesn't feel like he should be. The Joker's still, even though the Joker's just a guy, he still feels like a force of nature. You know, like Matt Murdock always felt like a street thug fighter. And the Joker, while he is nothing more than a guy with fucking makeup and shit, like I can't think of the aggregate that Daredevil ever fought, except maybe Typhoid Mary, who he also had sex with. They had a relationship, so they would fight and fuck. Very twisted. And Nascenti wrote those. Remember the Typhoid Mary issues of fucking Daredevil? God,
Yeah, those are tight.
I can't believe we were just talking comic books instead of comic book movies or TV shows. Remember the origin of this shit, kids? Comic book. That's it for the questions, my friend. JC,
that's all the cues.
They asked 3. We gave them 3. 7:26. We've now been doing the show for 3 fucking hours.
Indeed.
It's like we're a telethon. Jerry Lewis coming out next.
I can feel the hair on my balls growing. We've been doing this for long enough. You know how to fix that? Manscaped.com. Special code FATMAN20.
Kids, don't get caught with hair on your balls. Nobody likes that. Nobody. Use the force.
Nobody likes that.
Here, man, I'll show you this shit in action. Oh, shit. Did I fuck it up?
No, you're right.
Good. Why? You can never fuck up with it. What do they call it?
Lawnmower.
Never fuck up with the lawnmower. The Manscaped lawnmower. Go to manscaped.com, ladies and gentlemen. The code is FATMAN20. Get some money off and stuff. Show our sponsor a little love so we keep getting some sponsors. That way we can do 3-hour fucking shows that never end. Somewhere we got families wondering what happened to us. All 3 of us. So we're going to go back to them right now.
Indeed.
Did you enjoy yourselves, kids? If you did, it's because that dude right there went and looked up. Well, first it's because that dude right there, fucking right below me. Oh, I can touch this one. I'm crushing your head. Crushing. JC made it all possible. Give it up for JC. And then, of course, there is nothing that happens in Fat Man Beyond without the other guy over there. Give it up for the great Marc Bernardin, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, boys and girls.
Tomorrow is the season finale of Your Honor. Have you been watching that on Showtime?
I have not. Is it good?
Never mind Jeff's kiss, Jeff's blowjob. It's so fucking good. It's honestly, I need you to watch it because as a writer, I think you'll be enthralled. You'll be like, wow, they really found a way to twist this and twist this and twist this and keep it compelling. If the point of drama is to create a problem for your protagonist and then have him solve it or her solve it over the course of whatever it is, they have done an exceptional job of throwing their curves at their protagonist left and right. Bryan Cranston is, as always, amazing, playing another, morally sketchy character, but this time for reasons that are compelling. I'm not saying Breaking Bad wasn't compelling, but personally compelling to him. You got to check it out. It's so well done. So fucking well done. So smartly written. Brilliantly acted. Definitely worth checking out. I'm sure somebody is like, you're a fucking shill for Showtime. No, I'm not. I just like this shit. Kids, if you hear me talk about things, that's because I really like them. If you don't hear me talk about things, that's because A, I don't watch them, or B, I don't really like them. But you'll never hear me talk about shit that I like because I got paid to like it. That just doesn't happen. Like, it really does. Yeah, I wish it fucking did. We're on this show every week talking about how much we love this, that, or the other thing. They don't even give us free copies of this fucking shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, who sucks more fucking Marvel dick than us? We didn't get no early previews of the fucking show before it came on. So trust me, man, this ain't no shillery. This is just love. This is affection. I'm a 50-year-old fucking man. I'm only going to talk about this shit if it gets me fucking happy. And it does make me happy. And that's why we do this every week. You being here as a part of the happiness, man. Reading the chat, hearing your feelings. We don't do this in a vacuum. We do it because we wanted to hear from you as well. This is one of the best parts of my week. I'm so glad we got to do it. We'll do it again next week, gentlemen, on Saturday.
Indeed.
There'll be more WandaVision, an hour's worth of it to talk about.
Ooh, there'll be a 4-hour show.
We'll also go over the Snyder Cut trailer, which will be a week old at that point, but still. We'll cover all the news that's shit to print, ladies and gentlemen, because that's what we do here. Fat Man Beyond. That's all. we're going to give you this week for Fat Man Beyond. We just gave you the tip. Now we're going to take it away. Till next week, ladies and gentlemen. For Fat Man Beyond, I'm Kevin Smith.
I'm Marc Bernardin.
Tune in next time. Same fat channel. Smodcast.com or
YouTube.com/Kevin Smith.
Jeff's Kiss.